All right. I'll probably start the video about here. So hey YouTube, how's it going? I got stuff I want to talk about at the end of this this reaction. So hey, you guys stick around, or maybe just skip ahead if you're after you're done watching what you wanted to watch. But anyways.
Hello and welcome everybody to our glorious Alpha 2 roadmap and AMA showcase. We hope that you've been having a wonderful couple weeks.
I have
Great
been.
to see you a little
Except
earlier
yesterday
than normal.
and
Normally
a little
it's
bit today.
a week, a full month that goes by. But of course, I'm your director of communications, Margaret Crone, and with me as always is our creative director, Stephen.
He's gonna be really loud.
Woo, I'm doing good. How are you doing?
The chat, well, everyone's concerned about your PC dying, and
Dude, oh my gosh, it was terrible. This morning I was at
Let
home.
me know if the sound's
I was
fine.
getting ready, reading through the questions in the AMA, and the webcam broke. And so I went and grabbed another webcam, plugged that in, and that webcam broke. And I was like, what is going on? And so I texted you. I was like, I'm running to the office. You need to give me 15 minutes.
He was texting me pictures of him driving, and I was like, dude, don't text me while you're
That's
driving.
what the delay
like,
was
okay,
for.
John's driving. I was like, oh my gosh, crazy man.
Should I move the camera?
But we won't delay any longer. We'll get
Alpha
right
2
into
roadmap.
it.
My camera's blocking it.
Today we are talking about.
Oh, it's on the. It's there now.
There's a lot to do here today. We're going to be going over our goals as a team here in Intrepid Studios, the roadmap, so you kind of know what the schedule is going to be.
I almost look like I'm one of them.
Content update cadence, so you can know when we're going to be updating and what we're going to be updating, as well as what you can expect and what we need as a team from you guys. What features and systems that you can expect in each of the phases of Alpha 2. Now, these won't be like always at the start. It'll be all encompassing throughout the phases. You will see these things come online. Some of them will be at the start. Some of them will be throughout. And then we will also go over details on when and how Alpha 2 Access will be coming available for purchase again, because we know that there's been a lot of people asking about it. And as you saw with our networking live stream, we've been making a lot of progress in order to be able to service more users.
And by the way, have we done a roadmap before in the past? I think a long time ago, 2018.
Me, yeah, not with me. You might have done one previously.
Right. I remember.
Actually, you definitely did show a bunch of dates previously, and I got here and I was like, Stephen, we're wiping all of this.
I was like, Margaret, welcome. Here's all these dates that we talked about.
And I'm like, we're not doing that.
It's looking shaky.
It's okay.
That's good time.
And I think that that's one of the things
he brought into his Minecraft server. He's like, listen, here's our chest room. She looks at him like, now this is organized.
Constantly always say to you,
that's your job.
Is development is constantly moving, right? There's constantly things that come up. There's going to be stuff that comes up, and we've always been vocal about what those things are and why we've gotten delayed in those reasonings. Like we're never we're delaying and not giving you a reason why something is being moved.
And as a matter of fact, like on every slide you're going to see here, because this is going to be two parts, right? We're going to do the AMA eventually, but we're going to go through the slide like Margaret said. But every slide except for this one, I think at the bottom has this is still in development, work in progress, dates may change.
There you go. Someone had work in progress on their bingo card. They're like, please say it at least one time.
We got it.
I didn't have to say it. Stephen already said it. But we'll get right into it. So let's talk first about our goals as a studio here at Intrepid Studios for Alpha 2. We are looking for scalability, stability, fun, and engaging with our community. Remember that Alpha 2, this is not a game. We are here to test things. So the first thing here is that we're going to try to support over
the amount of people that disagree with that is probably staggering.
Right. Yeah. And by the way, scalability, stability, and fun.
Not I, for the record.
Right? That is how we're approaching right now, even testing, right? And today, actually, coincidentally, on the AMA day, we have a test with over 3,000 invited Alpha 1 users to participate in some stress testing, which I think starts at like 2:00 today, right, or somewhere around that time frame.
Well, Stephen likes to share NDA information.
Oh shit! Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, well, regardless, right now we are really in the testing of scalability. And that is going to be part of the first testing that's going to be available come October, and we'll get to the date in just a second. But as Margaret said,
Okay.
In that order, supporting
I just
over
read it all real
3,000
quick.
CCU per realm. So what does that mean exactly, right? We're talking about how many active players at one time each of the realms are supporting. And we feel pretty confident in that number right now based on the testing that we're doing with our network team, with our ICS team. Things are going pretty well in that realm. The next step,
And that's
obviously,
not total, because just so people have context, CCU is not total number of people on a realm. That is just
right.
like
Concurrent
the
That is
users, right?
at one time.
yeah, concurrency of how many people are on a realm. So there could be more than that as far as accounts go that are
3K
all
concurrent
Yeah,
users
and
per realm
and
is
something
actually
else to
not
think
horrid.
about that CCU is that we also have a limited design space within which we can play, right? So,
They'll need to
we'll
up
go
that,
into a little
I
bit of
think,
detail about,
for
what
launch,
that design space is going to look
like
like in the
actual launch.
game,
Right.
per square kilometer. And then obviously that's going to expand. And as that expands throughout Alpha 2, we will be raising that 3K CCU per realm up as well,
Okay.
right? So we're
All right.
going to start out at 3K CCU and then we're going to start moving forward.
And
What's
Somewhere
really
between like
CCU
6 and
concurrent
10K
users,
would
'cause I
be
think
pretty chill.
people are
I'm so
asking.
sorry.
Maybe not future proof,
It's
but
okay.
There's
chill.
gonna be perhaps some terminologies in here. Margaret will definitely help gut check me on that to explain stuff. But dynamic gridding, server meshing, IntrepidNet. We talked about that. I think it was a couple of streams ago. That is going to be active to allow us to support this 3K CCU at the start of Alpha 2. What's also important is that we're ensuring our realms and our clients don't crash, right? And so that is something that right now we're going through. It obviously is, you take one bug down, you pass it around, and now there's 100,000 bugs on the wall.
We're getting better
the,
at it. We're getting rid of
I've
them.
said it before.
Alpha
Off
1 was
stream,
definitely even more
I
during
think,
the
at
pre-alpha
least.
phase.
I don't know if I've
So
ever said it on
we're
stream.
getting there.
At a point, you need to do
Mhm.
live testing. You
And
you
remember
cannot
that 3K CCU,
consistently
our
do in-house
goal,
testing,
and what
or
we feel
even
very
like
confident in
spot testing.
achieving once
It
we
just
have expanded
eventually
that
just
design
stops actually giving you
play
any
space
data.
for Alpha 2, is to get to that 8 to 10,000 CCU per realm.
Oh, they're
So
aiming for
ensuring that
8
the
to
realms and the
10K.
clients
Okay,
don't
I mean
crash,
that's.
that is of great
I
importance.
was gonna
That
say
is the
6K would be a
stability
solid
factor of it.
minimum.
Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to bring up the fact that we actually haven't had a ton of realm crashes actually in all of our testing that we've been doing so
Don't
far.
jinx it
It's
like
been
Yes.
that.
more
Don't jinx it like
client
that.
crashes
Don't
and
do that.
server worker crashes. So the reason why we're using the term realm is because we have another system. If you watched our network meshing live stream, where we have a bunch of like mini servers that are
Server workers.
server
Yes.
workers that are running, and those
Yeah.
all tie into one larger realm.
Everybody has their own blend of vernacular that they use as it pertains to
People were just
either
asking in
their.
chat, and I don't think
Yeah,
everyone has context, so I was giving a little.
Yeah, a lot of
absolutely.
people were actually
Absolutely.
confused by
So
that
ensuring that the realms and
stream
the
too.
clients don't crash, and if they do, and this is the important part, having them fail gracefully, right? And that's something
I
that
think the
we're
two
able
big
to
profile ones I
identify as
knew
we're
about were
doing this
Asmon
NDA
and
testing right now.
Pirate Software.
And hopefully we get that
Didn't
to a
seem to
very
quite
good
understand
place
what
by
they were
the
talking about
time
in
we
that
start
stream,
the
which is
non-NDA
fair. It's
testing,
developing
because
tech.
that's not, although it is going to happen, we want to mitigate it as much as possible. So outside of stability, the next goal obviously is to deliver a next generation MMORPG that is focused around
That,
systems.
and I
Our
don't know if
game is a
Pirate Software is a
systems
networking guy.
focused game, and a
I know he's
lot of
game
what's at
dev, but I
entrance
don't
of
know if
Alpha
he's
2
quite as
pertains to
versed in
those
networking.
systems. Obviously, we have an audience that's hungry for some high quality experiences and services. But remember, Alpha 2 is not a completed game. It is not an early access game. This is an alpha, which means that as part of this playtesting, that people who are participating, they are giving us data that we can act upon, both from a game iteration perspective, but as well as a stability and scalability perspective as well, right? And those are our focuses. Um, and lastly, and this is something that we're going to do throughout all of our testing for Alpha 2, is that we're going to build ashes with our audience, right? And that is what we have been doing over the course of the last several years, as at least relates to our development updates, right? We have been doing this in a very show and tell. Here's our progress towards these features, towards this content. You give us your thoughts. Now it's going to be more tactile. Now you're going to be in game with us, with GMs, with the developers. We're going to be a little bit more vocal in Discord with you, not just me, but some of our other developers who are actually responsible for the development of these features in game. And they're going to hear directly from players and have an opportunity to digest that feedback, bring that feedback to me, bring that feedback to the team and act upon it, right? That is something that I think is probably most unique about this testing phase, and probably that you guys have never really experienced with any other
They better
project,
have
at
a
least of
feedback
this
button.
size, when it comes
Whereas
to,
Garbage's
you know,
Packs
the
Day
amount of
that
money
was
that's being
one of the
invested
best
to
features they've
creating
ever
this game,
that
and
I've ever seen in
the
an
quality that we're
alpha
trying
beta
to
test
create this, the
testing phase.
quality of our dev team, right? This is a big project now with over 200 developers, and this is not typically the standard approach that games take when it comes to developing these types of projects. So this is something, this last point is really something that we pride ourselves in doing. This is something that we feel is really unique for the industry, and we want to continue to do it and step up what that means, which means we show you what we do, we discuss why and how we're going to do it, and most importantly, we're going to talk with our players.
You're not
Literally
the first
talk
ones to
with
do
our
it,
players.
because I know Camelot
Whether
and
that
Chain
be in
did
Discord
some of this
voice chat,
stuff
whether that
too.
be in
But
Discord
they're
text chat,
definitely the
on
ones
forums, whatever,
that have done
all
it the
the avenues
best.
possible,
By
you're
and
going to
large, have
see our
done it the
team
best.
engaging, and that's something that's most important.
Yeah, and we've
The
already
last
been doing a lot of that too. If you haven't been part of our office hours, our wonderful community managers run that, and it is wonderful. It's something that is very unique.
That
I've
I'm
not
aware
seen
of,
other
anyways.
companies do
I
that.
should
We
say.
sit and actually talk with you. We
Oh,
listen
yeah.
to you. We write that down. We record that, and we bring that back to our team in a like consolidated report that they can then consume.
And
really
you know,
handy.
I mean, to be
it's
fair,
been
I could have
really
been. There are people
rewarding
in that for the Ashes side that are as
so just
well.
to give you guys context, the way that we're kind of
But
performing our
yeah,
current stress testing is obviously we have these, you know, thousands of A1 testers right now that we've given invites to that are participating in the testing. And in the studio, we have our war room, right? We call it our war room, right? Where all the devs who are part of facilitating the test and administering the test, the devs responsible for observing the test and reacting to the issues that are, you know, we're all in this war room together. And
We have
then at the
comms where
same
we're like, "War
time,
room,
I know,
this problem is going on."
we have call signs, right? Where it's like Maverick, this is War Room, this is Sandman Command, like Viper Command or whatever.
server
It's
alpha's
actually
down.
hilarious.
I
But
repeat, server
we're
alpha's
also on the
down.
flip side of that coin,
Oh,
having our
we need an
Discord
immediate
open with
evac
all
for all of
those
our
testers,
users.
with those tester groups, with hundreds of people in voice channel, and we break up devs into different channels with the hundreds of players that we're administering these tests to currently, and it's a lot of fun. And it's also a lot of fun to hear the devs get to enjoy the players enjoying what they have built, what they have brought to life. That is something that is unique, and it's just been rewarding to observe. So kudos to the testers, kudos to the team. I know that this is very enjoyable for both parties, but there's a lot more where that came from. So to hit
I
on this
suppose that's
last
something I
point,
never really thought about.
Intrepid is not under pressure from
Open dev
publishers,
means that
right? And
developers get
what does that mean
instant
exactly?
feedback,
You know, as a player, you may not understand what that
and as
relationship
a
can
result, they
sometimes
build a
entail
rapport with
between
the
a
players.
developer, first party developer, and a
And
third
that in and
party
of itself is
publisher,
probably
or
rather
vice versa.
entertaining if
You
done in
know,
the
there
right
are
way, right?
certain
Never really thought about
dates
that.
that are required to hit, and
The
whether
entertainment
or
part of that,
not
I
the
mean.
product is ready,
The rest of it,
sometimes
the
those
thing
dates
is,
occur. And that's the type
yeah,
of
either way.
pressure that we are not going to succumb to. Now, what does that mean for you guys? Unfortunately, to some degree, it means that there's a higher potential for delays, right? Because our focus is on the quality of the product, on the quality of the experience, and on the quality of the data that we want to receive from these testing periods. That is paramount to us. And because that is paramount to us, we are more willing and able to tell you that we're going to have to delay something, and we're okay with failing. We actually embrace
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
failure. Excuse me. We embrace failure.
Okay,
And the
okay.
reason why we embrace failure is because the faster you fail, the faster you can correct that failure
As
and
long as
move
you
forward
learned
to a
from those
success.
failures, we don't embrace
Hope that
failure that
was
you
them
don't
and
learn
not
from.
me.
No, of course not. Yeah, I've always said I'm okay with what do I say during the dev meetings? I'm okay with different shit, just not the same shit. Like, so I mean that's generally what I mean by that, right? Is that we learn from the failures that we're willing to embrace. And we
I mean,
fail
I hope it doesn't
fast
happen again.
because
That's
we
what I
need
should be
to
saying.
be able to react to those failures in a way that is positive, that benefits the product, that the players can see and understand. That is something that matters. In addition, we are using our own technology and our own support services, right? We are developing these systems in house, not just the game, but the way we're delivering the game from the launcher's perspective, the way that we're administering the account services, the way that we're administering our web portal and publishing platform, the way that we are creating all of these ancillary services in order to support to support the game that we are launching. So keeping that in mind, that obviously our commitment is in actually creating an MMORPG that's going to make you guys proud. So with that being said, no, we have not delayed beyond October. We already announced that October is going to be the month just 2 weeks ago. And October is when the NDA will be lifted and A2 testers will all be invited on the 25th.
We're ready to move.
25th. Okay, it's not the
Oh,
31st.
yes. I apologize.
All
Silver lining.
I
Here we
thought you were,
go.
Still pretty
I thought you were
deep,
moving
though.
with me.
I still think
Okay.
it's a little early for them to make a
So-
bad call, though.
Alpha 2. How is Alpha 2 going to work? Obviously,
See, I told you guys they were gonna have
talked
dates. I
about
made this.
our
It probably won't
NDA
show up in the
testing that we're
VOD,
doing now,
but I
right? These
predicted
are
they were gonna do
day-long
this.
tests essentially that we are doing with.
I don't know if they
with,
ever said they were going to, for the
our
record,
Alpha 1
but
users who were most active during the Alpha 1 period, who gave us good actionable feedback, and that is the expectation that we have for Alpha 2 testers as well. So October 25th, we will start with our phase 1 of Alpha 2 testing. Phase 1 is going to consist of weekend-long tests that run from Friday to Sunday and will occur every weekend moving forward until phase 2 begins. And do we want to talk, Margaret, a
so
little
we're not
bit
getting
about,
24/7
how we're
testing
going to
until
be
May.
administering these tests, how players will get notices of these tests, and the type of support that we're going to offer them from a community perspective
I mean,
during
that's
these tests as well?
fine.
Yeah, so
Not what I
we
was
will be
expecting,
contacting
though.
people through email. So for those of you who
A little
have been
disappointed. I was
joining us
ready to just
already for
fucking
our
like
pre-alpha 2
dump
testing,
my whole ass time
you
into it.
are, you've been getting emails from us, and that is how we will contact you. We also will have a private Discord for the private people, but for this one, obviously, these will be more. You won't be under NDA, so you'll be able to talk about your experience. But we will have some forums for you to access. We'll have some Discord spaces for you to access that will only be with those users, so that you can communicate with your friends as well as with us. And we will be kind of ensuring that you're kept up to date on what things are coming along the lines, patch notes, details. Some of that will be posted on our news post as well. It kind of just depends on what the information is and where it needs to be shared and who needs to have access to that information. But we'll definitely
Yes.
keep you guys as much in the loop as far as customer service support. Alpha 2 is an alpha. This is like an actual alpha. We are not like
Yeah.
a game where it's like
I don't
we're
know.
just porting
I'm a
over.
little
or
disappointed about that. Maybe that's me being a little weird. I don't know.
Proper alpha. So as Steven has
Um,
stated many times, it's not a game. We are here to
I know-
test
you know
and
what,
get
that's
things
fair.
moving along. And
We-
as you can see here,
we've talked
what
about
our
it before. It is a
testing
test.
goals are as we continue
It's not
forward.
meant
The
for me to
game will
fucking
become
sit
more
there
of a
and
game
burn
as
out
we go
on
through
early.
Alpha 2.
I could burn out
But
early
what
on
that
it in
means
May.
also is that we will not be providing the same level of support we would for launch. So for launch, we will have in-game GMs who are
Here, I'm
assisting
second.
you, and we'll have a lot more things where we can help you if you get stuck on a quest
How many
line.
months is
But
that?
Yes.
for Alpha 2, that is not going to be the case. If you get in a broken state, we won't be fixing your characters in the same way that we would later down the line.
And the important thing to note about phase 1 between these weekend tests is
So
going
that's
to be
somewhere
that
between
our goal is not
8
to
and
wipe
10 months.
persistence, right? When we talk
10
about
10
the
months is my
progress
estimation.
that you make between these weekends as a player character,
Yeah, that's fair.
We may.
within each phase, there is a higher likelihood the earlier the phase that persistence will have to be wiped. We won't know for certain whether or not we have to wipe persistence between these testing dates, between these testing
I expect them
weekends,
to be wiped. That's
until we
fine.
come
They could wipe
across
them
an
weekly
issue
if they
that
wanted.
might
I wouldn't
require
bother me.
us to do so, right? So that's something to keep in mind, right? As part of what Margaret was talking about, these testing.
I know why they have to say
Alpha
it, for the
2
record.
testing parameters we're focused around, again, that stability.
Joe Bob and Jim are out
that
there expecting it to be the full MMO
performance,
experience.
and progression
And they need to be
as well. So
set.
for
Their
phase
expectations
1,
must be
those are the
set.
test goals. And what that means for us is obviously we're going to prioritize what's necessary in order to accomplish those goals. And sometimes that might be wiping persistence. So we have to make sure that those of you who are, and everyone who has Alpha 2 obviously has access to all of these phases, but those of you who plan to play in phase 1, you will need to keep in mind that there is a much higher likelihood that persistence wipes can occur, that realm crashes will occur, that there will be a higher dispensity of client crashes.
I just don't want
people may be
queues.
suffering, right?
I
This
hope
is
they
going
handle
to
that.
be a little bit of walking
I actually
before
want to
we
test
start
it,
running.
not arcade my
And
way
that's something
through it,
that's
you know?
important. Now, also keep in mind that we are dedicated to this being an open, non-NDA platform, so people can see the progress that we are going to be having in Alpha 2. And Alpha 2 is continued development, right? We are going to be continually releasing additional content, features, systems as Alpha 2 progresses, and that includes within these phases. So there's going to be focuses that we will want people to have when it comes to what they're testing within a given weekend or a given week, or as we drop big content drops for the phase 3 24/7 alpha.
Yeah, and along with those things, you will see, surveys that may come your way. You will see forum posts where we're looking for feedback and we're compiling it. We may do office hours where we're trying to gather feedback on a specific topic. So you'll be seeing us interacting with you guys a lot on those things, as well as the community team will be running some events that may be revolved around some of these things, and we may pre-record those things and share them on our live streams down the line. So you will definitely be part of a bigger picture. And along those lines, we'll also have things where you may be voting on stuff where it's like, hey, which of these things do you guys like the most, or what of these things would you guys like to see next, right? So there may be places where you can actually be part of the development process in a bigger way.
Absolutely. So
Um,
let's talk a little bit about phase 2 real quick. This is where we're going to have planned week-long up times, right? And these are 5 days at a time with downtime on the in-between weekends. And that's
So what,
starting
that's 2
December
months, then
20th.
4
So
months?
yes, that
If
will be
my,
a
if my
Christmas
counting is correct?
holiday playtime for people. I know obviously from a community perspective, that is something that is important, right? Because many of you guys will have time off. From a studio perspective, we will be bifurcating the development team into a live ops team to support, obviously, Alpha 2's continued live game service, but also the continued development for our expanded features and content systems. Um,
Probably good
Test goals
experience for
within
them
these
to
week-long
get that
tests
out of the
are
way
going to be
early too,
node
huh?
advancement, are going to be economy testing,
Or to
and is
get
going to be vassling between the
early
node systems.
experience on that.
This is something obviously that is
Eh,
important that we now start
I
getting
phrased that weird.
into more of the core gameplay loops, right? These are things like recipe compositions, balance between the different archetypes and the types of item creations that are possible, the resources that, how are they distributed within the world, and very importantly, node advancement. Obviously, the name of the game is nodes. Excuse me, the name of the game is Ashes of Creation. But in reality, it's
All
nodes.
right, all right, okay,
Because
all
this
right.
is how the world reacts and changes, and players are responsible for building those things up, right? So that is something to keep in mind as well. Phase 3. Phase 3 is going to be as we flesh out the world, expand the content and the features, and this will run until we reach beta. And this is 24/7 uptime. This is where the
Oh, so
gameplay experience will be much better than what phase 1 and phase
do I
2, at
understand what he
least as
just
it
said?
relates to scalability and
That
stability,
Alpha 2 will
right?
run
We are
straight through to
going to
beta?
have gotten out of the way a lot of the data collection, a lot of the iteration and reaction towards problems that we would have seen in phase 1 and phase 2. And this is going to
Man, the
provide
game may not
players
be as far
with
out as we
now an
thought.
opportunity, and really persistence wipes should not occur in phase
Because
3
beta 2 will
4.
probably happen really
Can
close to
they?
launch,
Yes,
I
they can.
suspect.
Should they?
Beta
No,
1 will
they
probably
shouldn't.
be a ways away,
But
but
that
from it,
is the
but
reality. That is the dichotomy between playing the Alpha 2 and testing the Alpha 2. So keeping that in mind. This is going to be also where the world expands, right? The world is going to expand actually in phase 2 and phase 3 both. But phase 3 is where it will continually keep expanding until eventually we reach the world.
what do we think about like a
So keeping
2026 potential
that in mind.
release?
Yeah,
As
because a lot of
always,
That's too
people
early to
want
be
to
saying
know
shit like
when
that.
the
I just
end is
think it out
going to
loud.
be. And it's
right.
like, yeah, we aren't going to provide that date because we want to ensure that we're hitting all the beats that we want as far as like the
And
content.
yeah, and we don't know when beta starts yet, right? Like the
Well,
most
internally
important thing.
we have a plan, but
Well, yeah, but what I mean by we don't know is to an epistemological certitude, right? No, I'm just thinking, but like what I mean by that is
Are-
testing can influence those dates
yes,
in a
yeah,
very big way, right? So keeping in
So remember,
mind
testers,
that
We
what
tell them
we
that everything's
learned from
a-okay and
this
there's nothing they
testing,
need to fix, and they
what
should just
we
push forwards.
learned from phase 1
I'm
and
joking.
phase 2 and
That
phase
is
3
satire. I
is
am
going to
joking.
inform how we iterate, how we respond, how we fix, and that can change
I
things.
do hope they don't take on
So
too
the
much
further out you
and
look,
take feedback
the more
too
blurry the
heavy-handed.
picture is, right? Keeping that in mind, right?
Like, I don't want them to just go
closer the
rewrite
goal, the
systems
more
because,
certain we
like,
can be
a
about
big
what we're
guild
going to
said,
hit.
we don't like
And
this.
I do want to bring up
That's
one
just
You know,
more
I'd much rather
before we
them
move to the next slide.
only
because
fix
it's gonna
things
be
that are
about cadence of
genuinely
our
broken
updates.
and fix things that, like,
Is that for those of you
multiple
who have
guilds,
Alpha 1, I
multiple
know some of you
solo
have been
players,
asking,
multiple
why
people,
haven't I been selected yet?
multiple groups
We
are
have been
telling them that
continually
need to be
increasing the
tweaked.
people who are testing with us for pre-alpha 2. We will be
Because
expanding
that's how
that
we end up
to
with, like,
all
scope
Alpha
issues,
1
right?
users
That's
at some point.
how we end
But
up
we are
with a
kind of
development
just
cycle that
ensuring
lasts 5
everything
more
on
years
our
than it
end is in a
needed to.
good space, and we will continually add people. So you will be joining us before October 25th. Don't worry. But just kind of, wait until you get the email. We'll notify you guys. We've been messaging folks whenever we do send out those emails. So just kind of hang tight. If you might not get selected in the next one, but you may be selected in the one after that. And then we will be moving on to Alpha 2, which will be all of our Alpha 2 users, which not everyone who purchased Alpha 1 has access to Alpha 2.
Is that true?
Yeah,
Oh,
because some people didn't buy Alpha 2. They only had a key or only purchased Alpha 1.
Oh, can you do?
Oh,
Oh, I
okay.
didn't realize they did that
But
earlier.
anybody who owns an Alpha 1 package like the Intrepid or I can't remember the
Phoenix
name of the
Initiative?
pre-order packages. Those all have the Alpha 2 access and Beta 1 and Beta 2
Yeah, if your package has Alpha 2, then you are going to be an Alpha 2.
Exactly. Yes.
Moving on to cadence. Want to talk a bit about that, Stephen?
All right. Yes. So let's get into cadence. So we have 3 cadences. We have sorry, I can't see the slide very closely.
That's okay. As necessary, we are going to be doing our hot fixes and deploys for critical issues. And then
yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
and then
yes, yes. Sorry
every
about
3
that.
weeks we will be moving into our minor releases. So these are
I lost my place.
in the run of show.
Yeah, I know. I was like, wait a minute, where am I? So real quick, let's talk about hot fixes deployed for critical issues. So as necessary, what that means is that if something is happening during a playtest that is either causing some game-breaking bug or crash to the server or a commonly experienced client crash,
Or a
we
fighter's
will be deploying hot
able to
fixes
one-shot and
during
he's just
that
rolling through
testing
crowds
session.
of people,
We'll be
making
monitoring.
testing
We will
difficult.
have our developers on standby during the testing session to react and adapt. So that can
I'm
happen.
partly joking when I
time.
say that, but
And then
I can
in
see shit
addition,
like that
we will
happening.
have a 3-week cadence for minor version releases that include balance changes, that include major bug fixes, right? These are bugs that aren't necessarily critical to the function of the playtest itself, but are major nuisances for either a primary gameplay loop or player experience or interaction that we need to deploy. Balance changes are relatively easy.
This is
for us
ultimately
to
shit they
address.
need to
This
say,
probably
because
won't
again,
be wide sweeping
I don't know, Jim
balance
and Bob
changes every 3 weeks,
and their friend
but it will
Joe
be
may
balance
not
changes that we find
understand these things or whatever.
gameplay
I don't like
loops
that
and
they got like
experiences that we
every
want
3
players
weeks,
to
every
have
6
or
weeks.
to
Bro,
update
just
for.
do it when the fuck you feel you need to. Stop
And then
giving us
every
like
6
solid
weeks,
dates
we
or
will
solid
be
time frames.
releasing major version deployments.
I don't give a shit.
This means that
if
it
you
will
do it
either
or don't do
include
it.
combination
You do it
of
because you
new
wanna,
features,
and you need to, or
content,
otherwise, right?
interactions that players are going to have.
That said, I'm
either
also
with
not going to
one
bitch and
another,
moan if they delay it by a week,
that
or
players
just
can
say fuck
interact
it.
with
The week
within
schedule
the
doesn't
node
fucking work.
system or economy, right? These are
Whatever ends
big
up happening,
feature
right?
and content releases that are going to happen every 6 weeks cadence, and that aligns with our internal development cadence, right? Like every 6 weeks is essentially 3 sprints for us, right?
Okay.
And the general cadence of our sprints is we have feature and content development sprints 1, which is 2 weeks, and 2, which is another 2 weeks. That's a 4-week spread. And then we have a hardening sprint, which is another 2 weeks that usually prepares a release candidate for us. And
It's focused
this
on
is that
polish and bug fixing type of things.
absolutely to make sure that this represents kind of, I mean, obviously when you develop a feature or content, you have these phases of development. That first you approach it from a functional standpoint as you stand up the types of interactions that you want to see, the gameplay that you want to see. You move it into a testable format, which has a little bit more bells and whistles, a little bit more representative visual effects or animation or content to it, and then you move into a playable state, which is something you would put into production or you would put out to the player that is externally facing. And generally during that hardening week, we are taking things from a testable state into a playable state, right? And that, like Margaret said, is addressing bugs, is addressing polish, so that it sells to the player what we're trying to sell, which is this fun
Maybe I'm
and
being too harsh
engaging
when I say
gameplay.
that they shouldn't have time
So
frames.
that is our cadence that we
Just
have
thinking about
internally
it.
for development, and that is the cadence that we will be utilizing for the
I
release
just don't want to
update
see people
for
bitching
the
and
game.
moaning about them not
And
meeting
at
them.
the very bottom, again, as
That's
always,
nothing on
development
Intrepid.
is a moving train
Because
and
again,
subject to change. So
delays
what we are
happen.
going to be getting
Open
in
development,
here in
you
the
just get to see them
near
all.
future, in the next
So
couple slides or
I'm
so,
personally
is going to be
I just won't be
talking
bothered
about
by it
what is
as long as
in
it's not too
Alpha
egregious.
2
But
Phase 1, Phase 2, and Phase 3 from a content and feature perspective. So we're going to talk about all these
I don't know.
systems that we
I
want
would have rather
players
them
to
be a little bit
engage with
more.
and that we want people to play,
I don't know.
and for you guys to give us feedback on. But keep in mind that this release cadence that you see is a very agile system. Everything I just talked about with sprints and Scrum and release candidates, that's all relates to this project management methodology that is under an agile umbrella. And the reason why it's called agile, as you can imagine, is because you need to be nimble and you need to be able to react and you need to be able to change directions and you need to be able to do what is necessary for the product, for the community, for the success of the vision, so to speak. And that means that we need to be able to change these plans. So that's why sometimes it's difficult to give perspective about what our goals are. We have goals. We have internal roadmaps. We have a team of 20 producers that are constantly focused around making plans and identifying work and how long it's going to take to deliver
Any
this, and
criticism I leveraged,
identifying
truthfully, I do
dependencies that
trust
block
them.
different teams.
At
And
current, I
all
don't
of
have
that
any
is so
reason
that
not
we
to.
can have our internal plans. But the reason that we have this backlog and prioritization and we adopt an agile project management structure is because we know and embrace that those plans have to change. So it's important from a community perspective. And this is something that I think content creators need to help us nail home, because
I got you.
again, this is an atypical development structure. This is not standard, but that's okay. Our goal is to do it in a non-standard way. We have to embrace this together, is that things can change. So development agility is an important thing.
Yeah, so look at the
Let's
TLDR
talk about
for anyone that
Yeah,
comes
so
across this
on
VOD
to
or
what
whoever's
you
in
can
chat right now
expect versus what
that
we
may not
need
know
as
or
a
have
team.
this understanding
Am I
or be
talking
thinking
too
about it.
No,
much?
you're okay.
Open development means that we get
You're
to
where you
see
need
all
to
the
go. It's
imperfections.
okay.
Stream of consciousness, go.
And any moment they have to
Hopefully I'm
delay,
making
any moment
sense to
something goes
people.
wrong, any moment
Sometimes it
anything
gets
A lot of
happens
people
sometimes it
negatively or
gets too
positively, we will
developy.
see.
A lot of people are developers
Especially
too,
once
so
we have
they're in
hands
chat
on.
going like, "Oh my
It'll be
gosh,
even
I'm on a
more
break from my
amplified when we
focus
have hands
job,
on.
and I'm now talking
It
like
effectively
9
is the way I take what he said. And to
Okay.
be expecting of
All
that.
right, let's talk
He might
about
say a date or give us a
what
time
you can
frame,
expect and what we need.
but what he's telling you is
What
that
can you
that's just a
expect?
fucking
Well, you
that's
can
the
expect that we're in
plan,
a testing phase.
but plans don't always
And
come to
that means that
fruition.
Ashes of Creation is not
And be
done.
ready for that. Be
What does not
expecting of
done
that.
mean? It means that not everything's going to be polished. It means that you're going to experience bugs. It means that you're going to see systems that aren't fully fleshed out with content. It means that you're going to have areas of the world that need some TLC. It means that you're going to see variant NPCs with some placeholder behaviors and potentially ability systems. You're going to see skill trees that need to be completely rearticulated. You're going, like
balance is not there." Yeah.
there is a whole host of shit. Excuse me. That pardon, pardon, a whole host of things that is not done yet. But does it do its job in conveying the intent of the gameplay loop? That's the question. And if it does do that job, then we can collect actionable feedback on how we want to iterate and finalize that loop. And that's the important part of Alpha 2, is to make sure that that is the
And that's
aspect.
that second line there, which is making sure that, we are testing those features and systems, and then we are getting critical feedback on that, and then we're reiterating on it.
Absolutely. Okay, let me see
We talked about
here.
this one a little bit earlier. I did mention that, the community will, we definitely want to engage with you guys. We have been this entire time. We want you guys to submit your feedback. We'll have a variety of ways for you to do that. And there will be ways for you to vote on features and content as well as we expand.
Yes, I see some people in chat saying 3 realms with each 3,000 concurrent users. No, no, no. We're going to get into talking a little bit about the number of
That would
realms.
be way
That
too few.
number of realms
Way
is
too few.
scalable.
I think they said they had
depending-
over
again, this is a very
100,000
important part of
users.
our network scaling.
Alpha 2
It
pack
is a very important
holders
part to understand that we can deploy additional realms
alone.
as necessary.
So
Right? That is a
no,
scalable solution.
no thanks.
So as we need to do that, we will. Other points here. It is not meant to be viewed as done. It is meant to be tested and have critical feedback. We talked about that. The community will be able to engage by providing feedback and voting on features and content. Now, what does voting on features and content mean? Margaret, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I just did, but
Oh, shit, my
we
bad.
can talk about it again. It is, there will be cases where we provide you guys options. You may vote on them. I think recently a good example was, we asked everybody in the community, which do you prefer, B for backpack or I for inventory? And that was an interesting one where we consolidated all the feedback from all of our social platforms, and we came back to the team and we're like, this is
For
the
H,
most voted option. And so we swapped that and changed that in game. So it may be little things like that. Oh, they're already doing it in chat now. It could be
What
something
are
like
they doing?
that. It could be bigger pieces. It could be things where
What was the question? Why are they saying tab and shift B?
B and I was what I had offered, but they're offering other options for bag or
Oh,
inventory.
yeah.
I think
Well,
Shift B
what
was
the outcome
BDO,
of the
wasn't
bag or
it? Am I
inventory?
crazy?
I'm
I
more
don't
of a
remember. I
BD
changed all my
guy.
hotkeys to
You're
BDO though.
BDO?
What are you?
I might be weird.
I can do either. It's like any game. Every game we do it different.
I do
so.
I
H.
can do either as well, but the question is, where does my finger go first? And it goes to B.
Oh yeah,
And then I hit it, and nothing
I is way
happens, and I'm
far
like,
away than
damn.
B compared
It's
to
because
A.
of fucking
B's a
Minecraft.
little too far. Or A's a little too far.
Used to have a gaming mouse
Okay, so that's
that
the
I
example,
didn't have
right?
anything
Now,
to bind
obviously,
on
we're
the
not going to
last
be
button,
voting
so I
on
bound H for
everything.
No.
honor.
Of course
in
not, right?
Most of it will
But
be
the
feedback
for the
oriented.
PvP menu
yeah,
in
and a lot of these things will be like,
World of Warcraft.
that was a great example, the B or
So
the
when I
I.
played Minecraft and I was using my big boy gamer mouse, I
That's a
needed
great
a
example of B
button
or the I because
to hit,
that's
and I didn't
something
want to
that
change all
is
my
easy to
keys
collect feedback.
for
It's a
WoW.
default thing,
So I
and
just
people
made it
can change
H,
it
and
if
then
they
when I
want
lost
to,
that
right?
mouse,
And
I
we're
just
all
was too
about
lazy to
options and
change
changing
it,
things as
and then
well.
I would just reach over and hit
But
H.
more of those types of
So I got
interactions,
used to
which I
that.
think the community enjoys anyways, right? And
Very
it's
weird
something
way to
that's
get
not,
used to it, but that's that story.
necessarily infringing on the concept of the game, the core loops of the game, right? That is not what we want to put up to vote. We don't want to put up to vote the identity. We want to put up to vote a lot of the subjective, player kind of facing decision stuff that we feel confident in. The other thing is feedback, and we talked a little bit earlier about that, having the devs interact and being more vocal and talking. All right, we want to move to. Oh, I'm sorry. There's more to this section.
Yeah.
I'm scrolling down.
We talked a bit about this already about the persistence, so I don't think we need to go in more detail about it. But
Yeah.
because we do expect database, that's what the DB stands for, database schema, to change for performance and balance issues and fixes, that does mean that we may have to do persistent wipes for those
Yeah,
if necessary.
this
So it's kind
is
of
this
giving you a
is
reason and an understanding of what to expect.
this is why. So the database schema and how the gameplay systems are interacting with the database, right? That is essentially the types of things that we're going to be observing, the data we're going to be collecting that can influence how or why we may need to do persistence wipes. And of course, that's going to come much more into focus during phase 1 and 2 in the hopes that phase 3 will not have to see any persistence wipes. That is the goal, right? And that's also partly the reason for the phase testing as well, right? That is a very foundational and fundamental interaction. What
Ultimately,
persistence
that's fair.
entails from a database perspective and these gameplay systems interacting with that. So keeping that in mind, that can be crucial for us collecting data, because you could be 5 days into a test or a week into a test, and we're collecting the data on how nodes are progressing, the movement of those locations and areas are progressing, and now we need to wipe the database because of some issue that we've encountered, and we have lost progression beyond that 5th day or 6th day. So it's important that we nail those down during phase 1 and 2. We talked about testing core gameplay loops. Obviously, this is why we're doing Alpha 2, right? In addition to all the technical components, the gameplay loops are really where your feedback is most important. This is where the conversation with the developers is most important. How did it feel to play through these types of systems? Where were the problems with these systems? How did it not interact well on a large multiplayer functionality? What are the blind spots in our design that we haven't seen because we're very much in the box perspective, and you're outside of that now, coming in to get a fresh look and play through? That's something that's very important to us.
And the big piece of this, and the reason why it's there for you to understand what to expect, is that you can expect that we will be reacting to those feedback loops, and we will be fixing and updating things on those 3 to 6 week cadences, depending on where the thing lies, right? If it's a critical issue, if it's something that can just be a bug fix, or if it's something that's much bigger and a bigger feature change that we have to make, right? Those will be on the 6 week, and those will be happening for every phase, not just phase 3. I think people were thinking that those cadences would only be phase 3. Like Steven
Yeah.
said, those are part of
Okay,
our
that's
development
fair.
process. We work on a 2 week
Absolutely.
sprints, so you will see those cadences for
Yeah.
every phase.
I mean,
I
this
may
is
have
a big
misunderstood him a little bit
transition
then.
for the studio and for the project,
I think, anyways.
because
I don't remember
right
exactly what I said
now
offhand now.
those cadences are what we currently do internally when it's not outwardly facing. And now what's going to happen is we have this, just to talk a little bit about that. We have this release train of development where our source control system is a program that's called Perforce. It's shared obviously by a lot of different development teams, and what that means is
I'll get to stand up for
development,
2
live
seconds.
development occurs in these lower streams that's we call our development branch, or our ICS or engine, branches, and then that's where the most problematic bugs are found. That's where the highest instability can occur. That's where we can see errors and warnings in the builds, and we have problems. And our QA team, which is a phenomenal QA team that's led up by Hector, who has been around the block multiple times within this industry, and they're responsible for trying to catch the biggest offending bugs that are really problematic before we take what's on that development
Okay, sorry
stream,
about that.
that code, that content, everything that lives there, and take a promotion up from development into the next stream, which is QA. And then from QA, we go into staging, and then, or LKG, which is last known good, and then to staging. And then eventually it makes its way into our stream that's called production. And that's where players sync to with their launcher in order to receive the client, right? So at each of those checkpoints, we are trying to identify major bugs, critical issues. We are trying to resolve them. We're trying to patch into that stream if necessary. We merge back down those changes that occur. But just to give you a concept, like that is what it takes to release a code. That is what it takes to release a software, a product.
And I want to be conscious of time. So obviously, this next
Oh
part,
yeah, this is gonna be a
we don't
long
have
one.
to, yeah, we don't have to go into too much detail on, but what we need from you guys is testing, right? We need you to test across all the archetypes, especially as we increase and add more archetypes. We need you to test our node progression and our systems, all our crafting systems. We need you to test against implemented content, whether that's PvP or PvE content. So just in general, we just need you to test as much as possible, giving us that data. The more content you do, the more systems you interact with, the more data that we get. And of course, that kind of loops into what those things that we listed earlier of what you can
The
expect from
harder
us
we
moving
know life
forward.
it, the
But let's
faster
move
we
on
get it.
to
And
what
real
you.
quick,
Oh,
I just want to talk about the 3 realms to start.
oh
So
yeah, yeah.
a lot of people are talking about, wait a minute, there's only going to be 3 realms to start. As I said,
3 realms per region to start.
it's per region, and we're going to be supporting Western Europe and North America, right? So
For alpha,
those are
just for alpha 2. As we expand to the other testing phases, we will expand to more regions, just to be clear.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. So betas, obviously we will be far more extensive with regards to the realms that we're supporting and the regions that we're in. But for alpha 2, phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3, Ashes of Creation will be published by Intrepid Studios in those regions of Western Europe and North America. Right now, what we say 3 realms each to start, 6 total realms. That is entirely dependent, the number of those realms, on the number of users that we see will be joining the testing sessions.
I'm
So
worried about
we
that.
talked about releasing obviously new A2 sales. We're going to get to that here at the end of the deck. I know for many of you that have been posting on social media, they're posting on Reddit, they're posting on forums about a way to access Alpha 2. We are going to be providing that. And depending on the scaling of how many of those additional A2 sales we do, we will be spinning up new realms to support that. It's not going to be bogging down the queues on those, 6 realms, and we're going to stick with those 6 realms. We're going to scale the realm count. So just keep that in mind. Okay.
And of course, as we get more users, we'll need to anyway scale.
Absolutely.
But we want to also keep them healthy, so we want to make sure that we're putting enough, making enough space for.
I see people saying U.S. West or U.S. East. The goal is to be U.S. Central, so for the North American
That's fair.
servers, and
I agree with
obviously
that.
we have the ability to deploy in any region across North America and Western Europe. So depending on how we heat map the number of players and where they're located on, that may encourage us to spin up clusters within the cloud for those regions that might be U.S. East or U.S. West.
All right, moving on to kind of the comparison of what you saw in Alpha 1 versus what you'll be seeing in Alpha 2 with a little map there for you, different
Where
regions.
are we deck page 7?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, obviously, those of you who participated in Alpha 1, the
Yeah, I
project has
figured
come
that's
a long
probably
way since
where
Alpha
any
1. We've
misconceptions I
literally
have
had
will stem
an
from.
engine version change
Yeah.
between UE4 and
UE4 to
UE5,
UE5. 5.3.
right? Yeah, but we are on 5.3, and we will continue to upgrade the project to later iterations of Unreal Engine 5 during testing of Alpha 2. So keeping that in mind, we will likely be moving to 5.4 at some point between phase 1 and 2. We had a lot of different systems in Alpha 1, and Alpha 1 was not under NDA. So for those of you who weren't around during Alpha 1, don't remember Alpha 1, feel free to go back and take a look at the game then, right? Feel free to take a look at some of the systems. There were a lot of people that covered it. There was a lot of content creators that were a part of Alpha 1. And you can take a look at where the game was then. The game has come a very long way, and primarily when I speak about what it has come a long way in, I'm talking about
You're talking to dev speak.
systems and
Yeah,
content,
fair.
right? We changed a lot of,
I try to
almost
understand
all of the networking stack
the
between
developer side
Alpha
of
1
things.
and
I
Alpha
feel like
2.
it's healthy too,
We
but
changed
I
all
definitely
of
don't
the
think I'm
ability system. We have
great at
created
it yet.
new
I'm
ways
trying.
for NPCs to interact with our behavior state trees. We have changed the player economy and interactions and a component-driven gameplay engineering focus, right? Like there's a lot that goes into where we've come from the learnings of Alpha 1 to what Alpha 2 is. So yeah.
Oh, I see what this slide is
All right.
about.
Let's
Oh,
move
I didn't even
on.
see there's
It's
a whole different
basically
section here
explaining
to
what each of the
hide
alphas
my
covered. I
the
was like, they already
sizes.
moved from UE4 to 5. Like, why is that
Well,
listed
it's so
there?
large
That makes
that
sense now that I realize.
it moved that around a little bit. Node features, sorry, world bosses, story quests, a lot of that stuff obviously has changed in Alpha 2.
There you go.
Yeah, go ahead, you're good, Margaret.
All right. Let's move on to phase 1. I think this is what people really want to know is what's going to be in each of the phases that are coming up. And as we've always said, it's work in progress. We're going to be continuing to move things along. So some things may move to different phases, but this is kind of where we project where these things will land, especially for phase 1. Some of these features you will see at the start of phase 1, and some of them you will see as we expand Alpha 1 or phase 1 with the cadence updates every
Fucking
6 weeks.
goddamn word. They
There is a
wrote it in
lot on
ant
this
font,
page.
bro. It's so tiny.
And we're not going to go through, I think, every single one of these things. There's a lot here to fit on one particular slide, and I'm going to leave it to
I'm gonna lean forward
content
just to read this for a
creators
little bit.
to
My face
talk
is
a
probably
little
gonna
bit
be
about
nearly off
what is
screen.
expected in
Bear with
phase
me.
1. And as Margaret said, we're going to go through phase 1, we're going to go through phase 2 and phase 3. But keep in mind, again, I'm going to iterate this again because, there needs to be a rapport and expectation between us as the developers, you guys as the community, that as we get through testing, these things can absolutely change 100% because it's all about prioritization. As we experience stuff, we may move things around in the deliverable structure, and that's okay to do. So let's talk about the world. We have the western and eastern Aelan Riverlands, right? And we have obviously our desert and tropic biomes, which are going to be included during phase one to have parts of Sand Squall Desert and the Vandegar Tropics that are available. We saw a little bit of the tropics in Alpha 1. We saw some of I think in Alpha 1 we had like that turquoise sea area that we expanded to a little bit as well. But this is going to be the desert in which players for the first time will be playing through.
And don't
As
worry, we'll
part of
have these
phase
in an
one.
article that you can click on and you can see in 4K imagery. So that will be coming
So we're
out
only getting
because I know a
3
lot of people are
races to
like, I
start.
can't read because it's on a little screen. But we'll definitely make sure that you guys can get access to these.
The goofy
Yes,
style with shields
absolutely.
attack.
Is it super small?
Yeah,
I
I think
hope
it's
they'll do
safe.
something
It's
like that.
So maybe I should go
I
through
don't
them
know if that'll
then.
be
No, I don't
right
think we'll
away,
go through
but
them
that'd
now.
be
We'll
cool.
be here all
Margaret's
day,
like,
Stu.
no, don't do
We
it.
still have a bunch of questions we need to answer,
Okay,
and we
okay,
have
okay,
15
okay.
minutes left in our
It's,
allotted time.
oh my God, you're kidding.
No, because we
We're
have
def.
external
Oh
playtest.
no.
I
Oh
think we're
no.
gonna go
Okay.
over.
All right, all right. So we have. Let me just try to go through a little bit real quick on the world. So we have a bunch of points of interest, right? These range from very large points of interest to medium and small points of interest. Obviously, we have our day and night
So
cycle.
we're
We
gonna
have our
get
4 seasons. We have the dynamic
3
world
biomes, I
populations
guess,
and dynamic reward tables. Those are
unless you
super
count the
important when it
west and
comes to
east
world,
of.
right? Because obviously, one of the main focuses of Ashes of Creation is how the world changes according to the actions of the player
Okay.
or according to the actions of the system. And dynamic world populations and reward tables is those monster settings
I don't
within
know.
the playable space
I don't think they've
changing
ever showed
based
us.
off of those world state predicates. So keeping in mind that system being up and running is a very important part to feeling like the world is different. In addition, we also have a grand dungeon. That is the Tower of Carfin. This is a very large structure. We had some players within the playtest recently running through there talking about, I can't believe how big this place is because it is a large location. We have pocket dungeons as well. Talking a little bit about nodes. At the phase
Fair.
one level, we're going to have 5 node locations that will be primarily level 3. However, there will be some systems that we will be turning on that are level 4 systems in order to test during phase one. Dynamic road leveling. Obviously, this is we talked a little bit about during the caravan stream. This is providing buffs for mounts and for caravans, changing the advance of visual quality. I'm going to go through this stuff real quick. Just I'm going to be fast. You may hear me talking, and if I'm sorry if English is not your native language, this might be a little bit quick. 4 service building plots, 5 default buildings, 8 active constructed buildings. Each of those are providing different types of services. We will be probably listing as part of the article some of the names of those specific buildings, so a little bit more expanded information around that. The node currency system is up and running. Citizenship is up and running. We have 56 separate tax categories that mayors have the ability to manipulate and customize. We have buy orders. We have
Jesus.
25 plus player commodities and 24 plus mayoral commission types, as well as 36 node resources that all are accompanied with tier 1 through 3 recipes and have service building expansion voting, which is essentially where citizens help to vote on the expansion for those service buildings. And I believe there's 22 different expansions that are possible within the node proper for those buildings. Now, races. Very important thing about races. We have Vec, Kalar, and Empyrean to start. You might be asking yourself, but we've seen almost all the other races
But I
in.
think it'd be Vec and Kalar to start, and then Empyrean will be added in phase one.
Yeah, that might
Yeah.
be true. That might be true. So you might be asking
From the
yourself, but we've
ether,
seen
or it's like
the
based on your
races
main hand.
played in the game. There's a lot that
Yeah.
goes into making a race fully playable, and that includes making sure that we have all of the 470 plus unique pieces of armor deformed to each one of the races, so that when you equip a pauldron or a cuirass and it is on a unique race, that it's not interpenetrating the race, that it doesn't have some weird, skin weight issues. There's a lot that goes into making sure
Hot
all
take.
of the
I think
pieces of
clipping is
armor
not that big a deal.
are applicable to a particular
Obviously,
race.
that's not exactly what
So
he's talking
keeping
about
that
here,
in mind,
for
those
the
races
record.
are
But if clipping were the only real issue they were
available,
running
but
into,
we need to
I'd say
continue
fuck
the
it, ship it.
information work on that. We have 6 different archetypes, which you guys have
That's just me
seen
though.
through the
Maybe
course of
I
our
don't know.
development live update streams. Each of, excuse me, not each. Those archetypes have a
Not
combined
for
130
proper
plus
launch,
unique
but for
abilities,
alpha, I mean.
60 plus unique passives, 22 different status conditions that live across all of those different archetypes. We have 8 unique weapons that each have 30 plus nodes per weapon skill tree. And by the way, this
Yeah.
is a lot of detailed information on like what we're going to have in phase 1, 2, and 3. And normally
I mean,
we
clipping's always going
probably
to
would
happen. You
not
can't
take this
escape it
approach
entirely,
in
but
outlining kind of each of these things. But what we have heard from the community is that you
every
guys
game, you
want to
mean?
know this. And so because of that, you might be getting information overload, some of you. But we've gotten a lot of
I was
feedback
going to
from
say
the
Monster
community
Hunter is
that
a
they
big
want to
topic right now.
get this
Monster Hunter's
level of
always like clipping.
detail. So
And
because of
keeping in
that,
mind that phase one, a lot of these features will start at the beginning and some of them will come throughout. Whereas some of the other phases, you'll see less content because it'll be just the additional stuff that's coming along. So that's why this phase one is very big, is because it's not only the updates that you're seeing in alpha one or in phase one, but it's also what we start with. So it's like a
correct.
combination. Yeah.
That's right. So talking a little bit about PvP, there will be flagging, there will be corruption system, there will be guild wars, node wars, and caravan PvP events. You might see a term here you don't understand, and that is lawless zones. We have talked a little bit in the past
No,
about
they've talked about
a
these a fair
change
bit,
that
I
we
think.
made to the open seas
Yeah.
being open areas of
And dead
player
nodes.
combat. I want to talk a little bit about this before we move forward of what a lawless zone entails. You have the eastern and western Riverlands locations, which is where the 5 node propers will be at the start of phase 1.
Basically, just places you can PvP without
Flanking on each side of the western and eastern
having
Riverlands will be
issues.
playable space in the
No corruption.
Vandagar Tropics and the Sand Squall Desert that have a lawless zone applied to it, which means that if you move into those areas, you will automatically be flagged for PvP. And these areas will have the highest level NPCs to start. And again, the concept behind this testing also is that like you're the first wave of players, you're the first wave of settlers coming through the gates, right? And you're expanding outwardly from the ancient Aelan ruins of the Riverlands location. And the extension of your governments doesn't reach as far into the unknown of this world that is accessible to you and your travels. So as you move out into these outer regions that are the tropics and the desert, POIs are still being developed in those locations from a development perspective. So they're just going to contain overland populations and likely a turn-in location for caravans to move to that will reward the highest return for those outward caravan turn-in locations. As players move into those locations, they're going to experience the lawless zone. That means they're going to be flagged for PvP, and they're going to be hunting the highest level monsters in the alpha phases in these outward lawless zones that will drop unique materials that are related to enchantment for weapons. All of the end game kind of loops that will be present during the different alpha phases will exist within these lawless territories. Not all of them. I mean, obviously we'll have stuff that's not in the lawless territories, but a lot of them will exist within the lawless territories, and you can drop those on player death. So that's going to be kind of the loop of PvP within those locations as well. Okay, talking about systems and economy, we're going to have obviously flying ground, water mounts. We're going to have caravans with management for those caravans in the stalls, the cargo for those caravans and caravan events that we talked about. They can transition into rafts. That's going to be important, especially for the Riverlands, because the Riverlands is consisting of a lot of different rivers per its namesake. We have a mail system that's going to be active. We have player trading that's active. We have level 25 for artisanship professions. That's novice, apprentice, and journeyman certification systems. They will not be accompanied by the skill trees yet for all of the professions, but the professions will be available for level acquisition and the novice, apprentice, and journeyman qualifications. We will have 15 unique gathering tools, 33 unique gatherables, surveying, fishing, hunting with 38 unique animals that will be populated at the start of phase 1, along with over 400 processing recipes, 600 crafting recipes. We will have the gear enchantment system online, is currently online. We
I
have the
think
party and
hunting
raid
comes
markers.
online in phase 1. I don't think it comes at the start.
I think it's at the
Is
start,
it
but
at the
I
start?
will double check
Yeah.
that. I will double check that. I'm pretty sure it's at the start of phase 1. Party and raid markers. We will have chat systems for obviously guild, party, citizenship, global. Item deconstruction and repair. This is obviously the primary sink for an open economy like ours. Those deconstructions are going to provide unique materials that are necessary in order to craft higher level gear.
Okay.
So that's something important to keep in mind. And then we'll have 45 unique caravan components that help to kind of create a compelling caravan system. Somebody in chat is asking what is max level. At the start of Alpha 1 Phase 1, Alpha 2 Phase 1, the starting level will be level 25 for adventuring and level 25 for artisanship professions. On the content side, now this is something to keep in mind. There's a lot of content here, but again, this is from an alpha perspective. So there will be bugs, there will be issues, there will be things that we need to fix and flesh out further. But
And some
at
of
the
these things
start of
will
Alpha,
be in their basic stage. They won't be in their like final, stage with all of the
absolutely.
bells and whistles.
Yep, we will have 460 plus unique pieces of gear with the Node War Godspike event, 16 unique public events, 149 story-driven quests and commissions with 111 treasure maps. The treasure maps are fun. 3 world bosses with over 44 abilities and behaviors, with 75 unique enemy creatures, with 280 plus unique NPC abilities and behaviors. Keeping in mind, of course, at the start of Alpha 2, combat is a very important thing that we want to collect feedback on. And it's not just combat with regards to the way that the archetypes have been authored, but also the encounter design that players are interacting with these enemy NPCs and their unique behaviors that we have, so that you guys can give us feedback, because archetype design is half of that battle. The other half of that battle is the enemy you're facing. That is something that players need to give us feedback on. Okay.
That was
As
long-winded,
always,
but
development is a moving
cool.
train and subject to change.
Just like the
Yeah, I know, just
caveat.
like so keeping in mind, when you think about the dodged AMA. No, not dodged AMA. We're
We're,
gonna have an AMA.
I
This is
think
just
we're
gonna
gonna
be a
be
long
long.
one.
Yeah,
This is gonna be a long
Steven and
one.
I will stick with you guys. We just won't be able to partake in our spot test that we have going on today, but
Oh
it
no.
does mean
We're good.
our
We can go
volunteer
exactly.
mods. We love you so much because our community managers are gonna have to go assist with that.
We can go to we can. It starts at 2 o'clock. We can go for another hour and a half. We'll parachute in.
All right, we
All
ready to
right.
move to phase 2? Because
All right, let's
I
see where
see a
this
lot of people
goes.
posting like other features and stuff. We're gonna get to them. Calm down, homies. We're
Yes.
getting
All
there.
right. Let's talk about phase 2.
All right, phase 2.
So this is something that's
Oh,
very
much easier
important.
to read.
Again, I'm gonna hit this as we
All
get into
right, let's
phase 2
go.
and phase 3. I said
So
30 minutes
expanded.
ago that the further you look
Okay.
out, the higher the chance for chains. Right? Okay. So phase 1, we have those things that are testing right now. They are in QA.
And some of
Phase
those are coming
2,
online in the phase 1. Yeah.
right. Phase 2, some of this stuff is still in development. Has not gone through QA. Some of this stuff has not
I
begun
already see where
development
they
yet
missed the QA.
on
That's
some of these
freehold,
things. So as we
not
talk about
freeholds
what's going
in
to be
the nodes
introduced
area.
for phase 2, hear me when
Uh-oh.
I say this. Content creators, help me hammer this home.
Oh, I got you. I got you.
Things can absolutely change.
Things can change.
Okay? That means that you're going to see features and content here, and it is possible that it gets bumped to phase 3.
In other words,
So
things can
remember that.
change. Open
Okay, let's talk
development.
about zone
You
expansion.
know what
We
you're
are
signing
going
up
to
for. Don't be a
expand into the
dumbass. Don't be
Sandstorm
like Jim,
Desert. We're
Joe, and
going to
Bob.
expand into the Vandegar Tropics. And what this
Okay?
means is POI development is going to land during phase 2 for those
Apologies
spaces.
to anybody named
We are
Jim, Joe,
going
or
to have
Bob.
dungeons come online in
I'm sure
those spaces
you're perfectly
for
normal
the
human beings.
phase
It's the
2. We're
first three
going to
names that
have
came to mind.
nodes come online potentially for those spaces in phase 2. 2 unique node layouts with 4 levels, node sieging potentially with vassalship, and node death. The additional mayoral commissions, relics. Relics are important. We haven't talked about them in a long time, but these are node objectives essentially, right? That the citizens communally are responsible to achieve and bring back to the node. And
I saw a stealth system before I saw a rogue in the
Freeholds will be
archetype.
coming online.
And I was like,
Additional
stealth
service
system, but no
buildings and
rogue?
economic election type. We're going to be
I should
adding
have
the
kept reading a little bit
Veyloon
faster.
Dunir races. We'll be getting the rogue with 20 abilities, 10 passive, 30 skill nodes total between them. And additionally, we'll be getting four weapons. The dual-wield daggers, the scepters, two-handed maces,
I
and
really want to make a
baronets.
spell rogue work. I
Those
hope I
weapons
can.
obviously come with
For like
skills as
all
well,
for launch,
on
actual
average
launch.
around 30 skills per weapon progression.
Just
Siege
random
vehicles,
thought.
tempering, right? Tempering. This is how you improve the item stats, gems and sockets by adding additional waterfall type behaviors to those items. Gear ascension, repair kits, artisanship skill trees. We talked about the artisanship level being up to level 25 for phase 1. In phase 2, they're
Animal
going to
husbandry
have
breeding.
some level of accompanying skill trees in order for players to test. We saw a little bit about that in the artisanship preview
Oh, they did talk about
a
freeholds
while ago.
in the nodes section, so
Animal
that makes sense.
husbandry
Okay, yeah, I was thinking
breeding,
about that. Don't we need freeholds for that? I
party
was like,
gathering, and player shops, leaderboards. These are some of the additional systems that phase 2 will contain. On the content side, we're going to start seeing the story arcs come alive. Now, we've seen story arcs in the past as part of our development updates. That was standing up the functional system. Right now, some of the story arcs are in a testable state, but we do not believe
okay.
that they will be prioritized to a playable state until phase 2. So keeping that in mind, story arcs are obviously multi-day long kind of public campaigns that exist within certain spaces of the world and have certain player agency over those as well. Dynamic world dungeons. We talked a little bit about dynamic population spawners. We talked about dynamic reward tables. The dynamic world dungeons are going to be kind of the spaces that become available within those dungeons based off of certain world state predicates, right? That's another important thing to keep in mind. And NPC ambient behaviors, right? If I'm spawning a bunch of undead creatures like we saw on the Bard live stream within a farm, we want those undead creatures to do farming things, to rake leaves and dig ditches and do whatever farmers do. I don't know what farmers do. I'm not a farmer, but
They're gonna farm.
We need to have those ambient behaviors available for NPCs. And
I'm
that's
a
going to be
farmer.
landing sometime in phase 2.
An MMO farmer.
As always, development is a moving train and subject to change.
I'm going to reiterate this also because it seems like there is a little bit of confusion. I'm watching all the channels. Is again that what we're showing in phase 1, what we're showing in phase 2, these are not things that will necessarily be at the start of each of these phases. There will be some of them that will be coming online at the start of them, but these are things that you can expect within those phases.
Yes,
during. So, like we said, we have those 3 week.
Rest in peace, Summoner, though.
6 weeks.
Summoner's probably so far out.
The 6 week cadence is when you're going to see those big updates, and the 3 weeks is when you're going to see those bug fixes and things.
Bro, I gotta wait till December for Rogue.
Updates here and there with some of the smaller features.
Oh,
but just keeping that in mind. Phase 1 stuff, that's what you can see. You can expect as we go through phase 1. All the stuff on phase 2 is what you can expect as we go into phase 2. It doesn't mean that
who knows if I'll actually even play Rogue is the funny thing.
Think about it like this. Before we leave that phase, our goal, and by goal I mean it might change, is to have these things in that phase. So before the end of the phase, our goal, and by goal we mean they might change, is to have these things in the phase. Let's say it together. No,
let's say it together.
Okay, so that's important to keep in mind. Very good point.
I was going to say it with him.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate because I think there's a little bit of confusion on that internally, externally.
Yes, absolutely.
Ready to move on to the final phase?
I am ready. It's the final count. Oh, yes, let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Phase 3.
What's the anvils?
Alpha 2, Phase 3, features and content. We're going to be adding 2 additional zones, the Turquoise Sea and the Anvils. Now, again, keep in mind, Phase 3 runs a while. So what we're talking about here with regards to these additional features and content is what you can expect within the first few months of Phase 3, right? So there's going to be a lot that's going to be in technically Phase 3 before it ends. these are some of the things that are going to be within the first few months of phase 3 beginning. So a little bit of a different one for phase 3. The Turquoise Sea, the Anvils. I don't think we've talked about those locations in the past.
The Turquoise Sea is
Actually,
likely
I
just
know some of the
water.
Turquoise Sea was a part of the design
Yeah,
for
with
Alpha
Anvil we
1.
have not, which is more of a mountain
Yes,
area.
that's
Yeah.
right. As you can expect.
Yeah.
Um,
The dwarves, you know.
That's right. We're going to have 4 new unique load layouts, 5 levels of military and divine election types, atrophy events, policies, note happiness, additional mayor commissions, and additional service buildings. We will be adding in 4 additional races: the Pyre, the Renkai, the Nakua, the Talnar, and then finally the
Oh,
Summoner
Summoner will
archetype will be
make it into Alpha
introduced,
2. I
and we
wasn't
will
certain
have
it would.
some elements of the secondary archetype specialization within the cleric and tank. These are going to be examples of how augments work. It is not going to be fully fleshed out, but it is going to be some examples as we begin to move forward there. Additional weapons: the orb, one-handed axe, one-handed sword.
Ooh,
And
so we are getting
obviously,
another
from a
magic
systems
weapon.
perspective, we will have fully functional guilds. Now, when you think about what's going to be guild available for phase 1, these are
Actually,
going
one
to
of
be
the
the
comments I
abilities
had in
to
my
stand up
last VOD
guilds, going to be the
was
ability
about
to
wands
invite players to the
being a little
guilds,
bit
to kick
too
players
like
from
Harry Potter
guild,
like, right?
to participate in certain guild
Um,
content and
I didn't.
quests.
I wanted to
But when we
respond,
talk
but I didn't know how
about
to write it.
gaining guild
Um,
skill points and
I
investing
think I
those into
agree, but I
certain
think that also
passive
needs to exist.
abilities and having guild
But as a
levels,
result, there needs to be other
that's not
magic
going to be
weapons to
available
fit the other
until
fantasies.
phase 3.
So
In
I'm
addition,
neat,
we may be
cool.
expanding the freehold system now for guild freeholds, and castle sieges will be coming online. We will have some elements of the naval systems available beyond what's available with rafts, and we will have aquatic mounts. I think aquatic mounts are in phase 1, but we'll clarify that. Underwater combat, instanced content, the dying gear
Apologies for the
system.
typos. I see typos in there.
There's some typos. There's
Yeah.
a little bit of typos. Transmog, dying gear system, pets, and then certain aerial combat abilities for some of the flying or gliding mounts. Religions and auction house, right? Auction house is obviously a big one from an economy perspective. That's going to come
That's
online
something we're
heavily
going
in
to
that
try to
time frame.
test extensively.
Um,
I want to buy
Treasure maps for the
keys for the
Turquoise Sea
boys because we got some
and for
economy
the
boys
anvils
in
are
our
going to be
group.
online as well from a content perspective. We're going to have
Anyway,
dynamic world
I wouldn't
dungeons
be able to test
again.
that very well, but they might be
That will
able
be
to.
introduced, and
All I'm saying.
unique story arcs added. As always, development is moving and subject to change. So these are our goals for phases 1, 2, and 3. And again, these goals can change. We will be talking with you as we go through playing these periods, these phases. Our development updates will start to change their focus and will be about playing the game with the players, going through that experience, talking about the feedback we're getting, talking about the testing, talking about what's in active development,
I need to find a
and
guild that'll let
showing
me
some
do
of
Guild
that
Wars with them too.
6-week cadence content delivery as part of those live
I don't really
streams
want to
as well.
join one of
So
the big
this is going to
fuck
be a
off
little bit of
guilds,
a
but maybe they'll
shift
let me like
from what historically has been the
sit in on
purview
something
of
like
our
that.
company's public
Wonder
face
how
to
hard
the
that would be
community,
to reach out
and
to.
now is going to look like us playing the game with the players and talking about the things that we're doing with the game in a live fashion setting.
And as we go into each of these phases, we will, like, October 25th, we're going to have information prior to that that will give you kind of an understanding of what we're coming into that phase with. And then as we have updates, we'll have patch notes, we'll have information in regards to the bigger updates. You'll probably see those in a little bit more of a different fashion, maybe some video formats, maybe some live streams. So you'll be seeing a lot of this stuff in more detail as we move forward in each of the phases.
Yes. And I do see some comments about character creator. When is character creator? Those of you who have access to Alpha 2 will have access to the character creator starting in phase 1. So the character creator is available with the game client in phase 1. What we have changed with regards to the character creator is that we will not have a standalone character creator client probably until phase 3. At some point in phase 3, we will release that standalone character creator client. But
Probably
right
for
now, the
everybody.
character creator is part of phase 1. And
I mean,
those of you who
that's
have access to
fine
phase
as
1
long as we
will
can
go through the
fuck with
character
it
creation
while the
process as
testing
normal
isn't
as you
going.
enter into the game and play the game.
And
Because
those who
that's
have already
people
been
want to fuck
starting
with
to
it
test
early,
with us
right?
for pre-alpha 2, have already been kind of messing with it. It's still we're still adding features and adjustments, but once we hit phase
That's
1
fine.
of
Okay,
Alpha
that's
2,
fair. I mean,
you'll
that
start
sucks a
seeing a
little
lot more
bit
of those come online, especially
because I
one of the
wanted
2
to
races that we'll be
touch a bit
walking
of the
with, which
game
is the
prior,
Beck and the
but
Kalar.
whatever.
All right.
Yes.
That's
What do
like
we
the
got
least of
next?
The
worries.
next thing is Alpha 2 access. For those of you who didn't purchase Alpha 2 access before, this has been a thing that you guys keep asking us for. It's been something that we've been
Oh my God,
discussing
we have got
internally.
ticket after ticket after
Yeah.
ticket. We have gotten a lot of commentary about this. I know that we have made statements in the past about how we're going to approach releasing that new keys. To be clear, these Alpha 2 access keys are just the keys. This is a significant departure from what historically we have
You
done
do
with
not get the
regards to
game.
pre-order
You
packages,
do not get
having
cosmetics. You get the
virtual
key.
currency, having playtime when the game launches, having multiple access and access to beta 1 and 2. These keys will just have access to Alpha 2, and they will have access to different
Ah,
phases of
bro,
Alpha
they're
2. It is
$100.
extremely
That's too
important.
much.
It is extremely important to remember you are not purchasing access to a game. You are not purchasing access to an early
Nah, that's
access.
too
You are
expensive.
purchasing access to testing Alpha 2. So that is a very important aspect of these different items. Margaret, do you want to talk a little bit about how? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and we're keeping in mind the people who have purchased before as well. We know that our community has definitely expressed concern in regards to that. So hopefully, I know we're not going to please everybody. Stephen and I have said that many times to ourselves. We're like, we're trying to be as fair as possible as we can be. But how this is going to work is all 3 of these keys will be available to you on Wednesday, August 21st, 2024 at 11 a.m. Pacific. That is going to be next Wednesday. So for those of you who are with us watching this live on Friday, that is when that is going to take place.
It's actually
Each of these will end at a certain date or until supplies last. So we will have a number that we are looking at internally in order to make sure that we can service those users. Have the capacity in order to make sure you have a good experience in Alpha 2. But if we hit those supplies, then we will let you know in advance, like, hey, we're going to start taking this down at this date. If it is before that date, but we're hoping
I
that
feel like
we
they
won't
should have
have to do
teased
that, and it
pricing a
should
little
end in
early
about
so
the time
that they could
logs
get feedback
that are
on that.
there that you can see
Yeah.
on the screen.
I paid
here.
$150
Yeah,
total
so
and just
for
real
mine,
quick, it's important to note.
and obviously
I just want to
mine's
hammer this home
Kickstarter
again.
backer
Content
stuff.
creators, please help me with this as well. You should not be buying a key to Alpha 2 if you're expecting to play a game.
yeah,
You should
don't
not
get first wave, especially.
especially first wave. The great thing
But
about us not having an
I don't
NDA
know. I
is
feel
that
like
if you want to see the game's progress and not from a developer's perspective, you can see other people playing this game and you can see the progress of the game. You are not going to miss out on
yeah.
anything
I
if you
mean,
do
that's
not
fair.
participate in Alpha 2.
Don't buy this if you're
You're going to
really
be
not
able
all
to
that hyped
see other people playing the game. Persistence doesn't carry
for the
over into
current
the live launch
version
of
of
the
the game. I
game.
mean,
It's going to be a brand new, fresh start when it
makes
comes
me a
to
bit
the
sad though.
launch of
I
the
wanted to buy keys,
of
but I
Ashes of
can't.
Creation.
I won't be able to stomach
So there's nothing that you're missing out
buying
on if
extra
you do
keys for
not
that
participate in
price.
Alpha 2.
Unfortunately,
We are releasing these A2 keys because 2 reasons. One, we need additional testers as we move forward in these phases. And why do we need that? Because ultimately what happens in every MMORPG is you have some sect of retention within cohorts. And that retention is always going to be at a downward angle from your starting user cohort. So it's important to keep in mind that as phase 1 goes through and as phase 2 goes through and as phase 3 goes through, we will be introducing new users and new testers who do want to participate in testing an alpha, not looking at it from a gameplay from a being a fun and completed game perspective, but who want to help shape the form of what Ashes of Creation intends to be by offering good and actionable feedback, by creating bug reports for us, by crashing and being a test dummy for us, right? Those are elements of why a person who wants to participate might be encouraged to then purchase a key, not because they're purchasing access to early access.
I also want to make a clarification. If you purchase first wave, you get access to Alpha 2 starting on that date, and you get second. You're gonna play Alpha 2 for the rest of Alpha 2. If you get second wave, you're gonna have that.
I mean, I
you
figured
start
that
and you
was
get
the
to play all
case.
the way to. You
That
don't
would have
have to
been
buy
that would
all
have been
three keys.
extra
That is not
bad
how
if
it works. You
not.
just buy
That's
one
correct.
key
But
and you
fair.
get access to Alpha 2.
They do
So
need to
that is
clarify
how
these
it
things.
works.
That's fair.
I just want to make that
And-
very clear. You don't buy all three. You just buy one, and then you get access from
Still
that date
think it's a little
to
much
the end of Alpha 2.
That's correct.
for maybe like a year's worth of content.
You do not get
Not
access
even
to
content.
beta.
Sorry,
This
year's
is
worth
only
of
Alpha
time to
2
play.
access. If
120
you want
bucks.
beta, we will maybe be offering another option for a beta in the future. But right now, we're focused on Alpha 2 at the moment. We won't be bringing back pre-order packs. We've already said that before. So it will just be in the future. If we do decide to increase the amount of people in beta 1 or beta 2, it would be similar to this in the sense that it will be a key that you purchase for just that access. And it's
That's
not
right.
a code key. It's just access. You're gaining access to the game. You're not getting a code or a key that you're giving out to anybody.
And as Margaret said at the beginning, like we fully understood and expected that this is going to be the spiciest of topics when it comes to
Yeah.
access to the game, right?
Yeah.
And there's not going to be a price that's going to please everybody. I mean,
No.
that's just the
No,
bottom line.
that's
And
fair.
with regards to the two objectives that releasing the additional keys provides, the first one again was providing the testers that we need in order to shape the game the right way. The second is there are a lot of people who want to participate that didn't know about Ashes of Creation 6 months ago, that didn't know about Ashes of Creation 4 months ago, that are learning about Ashes of Creation today.
That may
Right?
learn about Ashes of Creation in May of next
And
year.
tomorrow, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
So we need to have avenues for those audiences to access the game. And
But
what
they don't
we've
want
done
to make it
here
too cheap
is
because they don't want
we've
people to just
approached
pour
it
in.
taking a look at the
Then they need to
value
make
of
money
alpha
off of it.
access
I guess
within the
probably to some
previous
extent. I figure
packages that we've offered
probably not.
as it
Actually, now that I say
relates
that
to
out
the
loud,
other
that doesn't make
components
as
of
much
those
sense.
packages, the game time,
But
the virtual currency for the cosmetics
I mean,
Those
themselves and
packages were
their
a deal.
value.
not like
Right.
they don't want to make
So
money, but I mean like
comparatively, like
in a
I
necessity
would
way.
ask that some of the content creators also help to articulate and enumerate what the value proposition is between those two when we think about that from a comparative standpoint.
The other thing to note here is that we haven't provided an end date for Alpha 2. I think people are asking about that and want iteration on it, but
I figure somewhere in like
will
2 and
end
4
Alpha
months
2
is
when
my
we feel it's
estimate.
ready. So we want to make sure, as you saw in that phase 3 slide, there are some things that we want to ensure that we make sure that we get. And there's some additional features and
Obviously,
systems
that's a
that we'd
guess.
also like to
I don't
get
know as
in
much
for
as they're
Alpha
not
2
telling,
that
you
are
know.
not
But
listed on that page. So we will kind of extend that Alpha 2 for as long as we feel it's necessary. So you will get a good chunk of time to play the game and test it. Obviously,
I figured you're
towards
probably
the end
getting
there, you will
somewhere in
be
the range
playing
of
more of a game. For the beginning, it's
8 to
going to be very
10,
much like
and
Steven
maybe 8 to
said.
12
You're not really
months.
playing a game; you're testing it,
Yeah.
and it's
Is
gonna
my
be,
guess.
you know,
My
a lot
personal guess.
more basic systems versus
That's
as you
assuming
get
you buy
later
the
in
120 and you
the
play
phases, you'll see more
Absolutely.
of
in the first
those
test, obviously. But
intricacies come online.
And so I know the next section that we have is the AMA. And
Yes.
before we get into the AMA, I want to close by saying this for the deck. Two important points. First, with regards to what we're doing with Alpha 2, the testing that it entails, the incomplete status of the game, right? The what we've talked about, you know, this is not a completed game. One thing I love about our community and that me having played many different MMOs, as many of you have, it can be difficult to find a community, in my opinion, as genuine as ours and as welcoming and inviting and polite as ours. Not everybody is going to like what we're doing from a gameplay perspective. Not everybody is going to like the visuals of the game. Not everybody is going to like the monetization strategy of selling the keys. Not everybody is going to like cosmetics. Not everybody is going to like PvP. There is a very eclectic crowd of MMORPG players, and we are not building an MMO for everyone. And we know that, and we accept that, and that's a truth. There is a specific section of the market share that is going to be interested in Ashes of Creation. When those people who are not interested in one of those things comes into our community and says things that may ruffle your feathers, I would implore you to continue the upstanding tradition that our community has had over the course of these last several years and be polite. give them the proper advice and direction when it comes to how we as other human beings who live behind a screen should interact with each other. Right? We are one community. We're a gaming community.
And you could
We
get
are
them to change their
gamers.
mind too,
No,
right?
yeah. I
That
mean,
is the biggest thing.
yeah.
Like
I
they could
mean,
become part of our community if they just understood like
for
where we're
sure.
coming from.
You don't
you
like
know?
PvP?
That speaks to being a good
Brother, I got
representation.
you.
And again, what I would say is we are one
No, I'm
gaming
joking, but
community. We are all gamers together. We have different interests, and that's okay. And we have different thoughts, and some of us can be more abrasive than others.
no,
And
I
that's
trust.
okay
I
too.
trust
But
Steven.
what I would
He
ask of
knows that
our
what game
community
he
and
wants to
content
make.
creators, help me
Someone
hit
can
this home
bitch and moan
too,
about how much they don't
is
like
that we
PvP,
are
but they want to
inviting
like
of other
Ashes.
opinions. We are inviting
It's up to them
of
and whether or not they want
other
to accept the
thoughts,
game or not
and
whether or
that
not
we
Steven's going to
don't
change it for
pounce,
them.
we don't
And it's
attack,
not something
and
we
we
need to worry
don't
about.
mistreat. We follow that golden rule, and we can be good stewards of this
Like, we
community
don't
and good
need to
representatives, like
gatekeep.
Margaret
Steven's
said.
already going
And
to do
by
that
doing so,
himself.
we will attract more users to this game.
So we're good.
So please, I would tell you, as my fellow gamers, let us represent the best of us. Things are likely going to change, and people are not going to like that. And it is important for us not to be white knights, hold us accountable where we need to be held accountable. That's part of the
Yeah, don't
the
ride Steven's ass
symbiotic relationship between a developer
in a good
and
or a
a
bad way.
community, right? That's an important aspect of that. I don't watch criticisms or videos that talk about losing trust in Intrepid or delays or problems. This is a marathon, not a race. Is that the right phrasing?
No, sprint.
Yeah,
It's
I
sprint.
think
Marathon, not a
I think
sprint.
I always get that mixed up. It's like this is a marathon, not a sprint, or this is a marathon race.
And it's
This is
sprint.
a
It's
this
sprint,
is
right?
a long
Pretty certain it's
haul
sprint.
journey. This is a marathon, not a sprint. Thank you.
Yeah,
That's what I
yeah,
was
yeah,
saying.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
a marathon, not a sprint. This
No,
is a
I
marathon,
got
not
you,
a sprint.
Steven.
What
I
does
got
that
you.
mean? That means that we still have a
You
road
probably
ahead
saw
of
in
us.
chat. I figured.
We still have a lot
Good
of things
timing.
that we need to do. And as a result of that road still being significant, there are going to be changes to what we have talked about here today. And so trust, that relationship of trust, is hearing those words as well and having an understanding when those words are spoken. That could be the reality, and let us help set expectations with the broader community about that truth. That is what helps.
And I think on the front of, when you talked about we take criticism. We understand that criticism is an important part of the process. I mean, that's the whole point of feedback loops and suggestions and understanding what you guys want and making sure we're all on the same page. I think that it's how you communicate your criticisms, which is the big thing. There are constructive ways to do that versus ways that are kind of vulgar, like Stephen said. And I think like finding the balance there is going to be very important because we're all people. We're doing our best on our front to like create a great
Yeah, I think
game,
they are
right?
really, really worried about
With
releasing the
good
We
Alpha
come
2
from
intentions,
good.
keys.
people.
Because people were
We
going to be
come
mad at
with
them for
good
doing it in the first
intentions,
place.
right? The
And
worst
they were
thing
going to be
I
mad
always
at
see
them
is
whether
like
it was
when
priced
people
too
say,
cheap
"Oh,
or
the
priced too
developers don't
high.
care." I will,
Bro, I
I
paid
want to hear
150.
that
How
nobody
come everyone
cares,
gets in for
like,
30
so
It's
bucks?
deeply.
beyond more, yeah, than you
Which
could
is
And
a
it
imagine.
is
cringe take, in my
hard when you
opinion.
read stuff and it's like, oh man, we totally get where that person's coming from. But at the same time, we have to adhere to what we can do on our
because
end at the
it's
same
it's
time.
just
So
the
we try to
key.
be as open and
They get nothing
communicative with you
fucking else.
guys
I think 30
about
bucks
how
or
we're doing
even
things,
maybe even like
what we're
25 would have
doing,
been perfectly fine.
and ensuring that you have an
Um,
understanding of those things. They may not always be the thing you want, but it's kind of making sure that you
I'm gonna,
understand why and how we're doing it.
I'm gonna tell you
but
one
I
thing
also
about
don't
recruitment at this
have that
studio.
much of a tie
There
to
is a
like
question
the pride
that
of the money I put deep,
every single person who
put
works
in
here has answered
deep. That's a weird way of
when it
phrasing
comes
that.
to an interview that I have with them.
And I know that some people will.
What are your favorite MMOs that you've played?
Um,
Every single person here is an MMO gamer. And that is why it is so important to us, as Margaret is saying, to deliver on something that we ourselves would be proud of.
We
And
want to play.
if that takes time, if that takes
don't say it.
us
Don't say it.
doing iterations that we didn't
That
plan
is
for,
what to say.
making
Like
changes that
10
we
more
didn't
years. I
plan
was going to
for,
say, brother, don't you dare
that is
jinx it.
something that we are
Don't you
have the
dare jinx it.
luxury of doing because of the unique circumstances of how this studio was founded. Right? That is not typical within the industry. I cannot express enough. If you know anyone in this industry and you talk to them about the story of Intrepid and what we're building, it is very unique. When I go on LinkedIn and I see the commentary from people about Intrepid and about Ashes, is it taking a long time to develop this game? What we're doing is special, and it should take a long time to do something special,
I mean,
right?
you think about most of the MMOs that have been created, like the legacy of MMOs that have been created.
I think MMOs
Most
have
of them
like an
didn't take
average
10
dev
to
cycle of
15
like
years
6 to 9
create. So
years
keeping that in
historically.
mind, hopefully we don't have to take that long, but you
So
never know.
they're
So
like
I think
coming up
like,
on that
and
a
that
little
was,
bit.
you
What, they're
know,
like 7 years
a
in,
different
7 years
age
deep now.
when like things were a little bit more simpler in the way that content was created. And now it's like people want and expect very intricate systems with great UI, with great user input, right? Like it's just a totally different time, as well as even some of the accessibility features that you need to have these days. It's just a very different development world that we live in. And of course, we are sharing the journey.
I
Most
might have pulled that
developers won't
number out
do
of my
that.
ass. I'm trying to
They
think of
create the
where I
game and
got
then
that
they
number
share it with
offhand now,
you
but
as
either way.
it's already created.
Yep.
So they don't, and their alphas and betas are more like testing phases that are like, hey, we have a full product. Now we're just showing it to you guys to ensure that we're hitting the line if
Yeah,
there's
and then
bug
those games
fixing, right?
released like half
Whereas we're
finished
like, this is the
anyways,
true,
right?
prototype alpha phase that
So
you
the
would,
extra
Hot off the
years we're
rack,
waiting,
destroy it. No, I'm
it's
just
just
we're past
so
that
that
now because we're
they
in
make
alpha
sure
2,
that we
but
have a
I
much more
know.
yeah,
polished
it's kind
thing
of
in our
the
hands
that
at
type of system
the
where
official
we're
launch.
actually showing you what true development looks like versus which is behind closed doors normally.
Yeah.
By the way, the most important thing I want to talk about real quick, last point,
Before
that
we
I saw
have
somebody before we go into the AMA. I saw Sinzoa in chat say pay to win garbage is what keeps coming out. We don't even talk about that anymore because it's just an understood thing.
Yeah, we are not
But
doing pay to
the
win.
most important thing is that we don't do any pay to win, and we never will.
Yeah, it's just
So
an
that is a
accepted
very
fact at this
important thing to
point.
keep in mind. I know that there are new MMOs today. I think about what MMOs are playable, what
Bro, I'm
MMOs
gonna
can we
play this
play,
MMO.
and how is monetization screwing the design?
Yeah.
Our goal is only
And pay to
cosmetic
win
stuff.
is always that.
I mean,
If
sure,
you see stuff
cosmetics
on
sales
our
also kind of
purchases,
hurt the
it's
design,
mostly cosmetic things.
but that's at
We
least
try
a
our
part of the
best to keep
design
it
that
that way.
can be ignored.
Absolutely.
Well,
Let's
and
do this AMA.
All right, let's
Bro
do it.
that dropped
Let's do it.
100k deep,
All right,
rolling your
our first
ass
question
every
here
time,
is
rolling like
from
10 people on his
Araga,
way
and
through
they want to
town,
know about
and the
debug
guards can't even
tools.
touch him.
Is the team planning to make
Is a
a
problem.
debug tool so Alpha 2 testers can identify and share critical information regarding bugs like XYZ coordinates, nodes, server
Yes.
boundaries, etc.?
Absolutely. Currently, we do have some debug tools in place for
Not for Alpha
users.
2 users to use though.
Well, we have our XYZ coordinate system in place that Alpha 2 users can
Basically,
activate
like a
through page
debug
down right now. You
info
don't need to be a fluffy bunny to do that. We will have
for
other
like the user.
A2 debug tools that will be in place by phase 1. I know that's currently planned.
I don't think I need those
When
as
you
long as
do
they're
slash
collecting the
bug in the
data.
game,
But that would be
it will
neat.
actually give us some of that information too automatically on our end.
Absolutely.
So any of the information that we need to know in regards to like the location
Yep.
of where your bug is happening, that will be provided in there.
Absolutely. And then in addition, yes, we will have other features that will be available for debug commands that players will have access to that might spit out their log to us immediately.
Like a bug or
Right
feedback
now, we
reporting
have a
system
reader
that's
on the
directly in the
log
game.
for the travel to
I
world
figure.
screen from the character
Hope.
creator or from the character stable that gives you
One can hope and
information around
pray.
your connection state. There will be a number of different debug tools that we'll have available.
Right.
And those will come online at different times during phase 1, 2, and 3.
Our next question here is from Rain Doan, who wants to know about population over time. What is the expected maximum amount of players that will be able to be in game across all realms at the start of Alpha 2, and how do you expect that to change over time?
Yeah, so right now when we think
What?
about
Like
the maximum number
1800
of
or
players, so
18,000?
obviously we have CCU, which is concurrent users per realm. We have CCU across a region or cluster, and
I
then
think they're
we
gonna have way
have
more than
our
that.
expected daily active users and monthly active users that we're aiming for. We have over 100,000 people that will be at the start of Alpha 2. We talked a little bit earlier about having 3,000 CCU, so any given time on a per realm basis to start. Our goal is to grow that as the design play space expands, as the as that moves forward from phase 1 to 2 and 3,
1 sec.
eventually that 3K
Screen's gonna go
CCU
black for 2
will
seconds.
grow to 5K to 6K to 8K until it lands somewhere between 8 to 10,000 per realm. Now, when we talk about scalability for deploying multiple realms at a time, our solution right now, we feel pretty confident in that being able to stand up multiple realms as is necessary
Okay.
to facilitate
Step
a
out.
high concurrency of potentially multiple hundreds of thousands of users come Alpha 2.
All right. And our next one is about testing expectations from Blip. Do you want the testers to play the game as they would and find bugs that way, or will you have specific testings for our systems and features, like app requesting specific things? Or are we allowed to find weaknesses like exploits and hacks, reversing the client, and so forth?
Um,
Spicy one.
both, right? We definitely want
As
players
long
and
as you're
testers to play the
reporting
game
it, I
as
hope that's
normally and find
acceptable.
bugs.
There should be.
But at the same time, if players come across weaknesses or exploits or hacks, we want players to report that to us immediately. Now, there's a
Yeah, okay,
fine
good,
line
good, good, good.
between finding a exploit or a hack or some issue
Hey, how's it
and
going, Dirt?
utilizing that to a benefit or an advantage as opposed to reporting that to us. There will be a firm hand when it comes with with dealing with people who are bad actors in the game. And just to speak to this, I talked a little bit about representing gamers as a community. There are those of you out there who are very technically savvy, that um, who are capable of putting to use your knowledge for good or for bad. And what I would ask of you is that if you care about the MMORPG genre, if you care about the hard work and persistence of hundreds of people that are working on this project, that you would use your powers for good, my friend. And that means that as you find these things, you report them to us, and we will reward you bountifully with people who come to us and are open about how they find issues
Good, so that
with
they
the
haven't,
game.
they're probably gonna have some kind of
And
bounty system
that I
going.
think is a good relationship
Good,
between the
that's really good.
developer and the players. But don't use it for bad. Don't take advantage of it. Don't cause problems with it.
And when they're
This
big
is
issue, like big exploitations or things like that, making sure that you kind of like message them privately to one of our community managers versus or through our CS or through our bug reporting tools, rather than like, posting on the forums and be like, hey, everybody, look at how you can exploit this thing, right? Because we will be looking at logs, we will be looking at data, we can see who's doing
Was
the
that one of the
bad things.
was that a
Or
bot
we'll take
response? I didn't like
action on those
half read it.
accounts, and we don't want to have to do that, right? We don't want to have to ban you from playing in the future
Or
or
a bot
suspend you for a
comment.
certain period
Sorry,
of time. Like that is
chat,
not our
whatever you want to
goal
call it.
in the long run. We really want to work together with you guys to find those things.
Think so?
for
Okay.
show.
Hey, Dirt,
All right, ready for the
if
next
whatever
one?
you said was
Ready.
not intended
This
for
is the
that,
spiciest one. I
all
think we
good.
talked about
But
it before. This is
Spicy.
it
from
seemed
Pirates, and they
seemed
want to know
sketchy.
about date expectations. We've provided a lot of dates here. How do you intend to comply with the dates that you present with this roadmap when it's been a challenge in the past for Intrepid?
Sure.
Oh,
Um,
did it say something? Oh,
so
yeah,
I'm
that's
going to answer
weird.
this in two parts.
One sec, black
The
screen.
first part is how do we intend to comply? I don't know that comply is the right word.
Yeah,
I
for
think that
record,
I would rephrase
won't
this
be
in how do you
adding
intend
random
to hit
people
your
to
goals
Discord
for the dates that
on
you
Discord.
present?
You can join
Because
my
that's a little
Discord.
bit more representative of the context that we're trying to provide these dates within. These are dates that are goals. Okay. And so what that means is we're going to try to accomplish them with the way that we've been accomplishing our product development thus far, which is through a robust project management style that's accompanied through a hardworking, experienced, and knowledgeable production team that works with our veteran MMO developers who have made these games over the course of their careers of 25 plus years for many of them. And we're going to execute in a fashion that involves the use of the feedback systems that we've created with our community. That is how we intend to deliver upon our goals. Now, the second part of this question, which is basically, it has been a challenge in the past for Intrepid. this is a difficult game to make. I don't know if you know that, but this is one of the more complex MMOs that I personally have seen from a systems perspective, from a features perspective, from an intent to launch with content perspective.
Yeah,
Um,
I'd say this
you might
game
ask
rivals
yourselves, well, why are you
like
trying to create
some
an
like
MMO as
midway
complex
developed
as Ashes of
MMOs
Creation
with what
and
it
as
with
with
what it
as much
boasts.
content as Ashes of Creation is trying to
Um,
launch with? Um, the answer is because we believe the space needs that. We believe that the MMORPG genre is a prime genre for a product like this to come in and shake up this idea of what an MMO should be. And because we're trying to do something difficult, and that is a difficult task, we are going to have setbacks. We're going to have hurdles. As I said, we're going to fail, and the right
yeah,
attitude
he
about
deserved it.
failure is to
Should have reported
embrace
it
it
to the
and
devs.
move
Devs may
past
even
it and
would
learn from
may
it
have even allowed him
and
to keep
not
some of that
fail in
money.
the same way again.
If he's like, hey man,
That
this is an
is the
issue.
importance of failure. It's not
Being
that
a
we're
decent
not
human
going to
being
fail.
is
It's
such
that
an
when we
easy thing to
do, we're
do.
going to talk to you about it. We're going to level set about it, and we are going to make changes to avoid that particular failure again in the future. Um, and so I think that's the important part in the
Or
relationship
rewarded him with
between
something
community
else
and
potentially,
developer
maybe, right?
is to make sure that that understanding exists. Um, so yeah, that's
It's a hard one too. I think a lot of, I mean, all of us in this chat have probably experienced a game that has launched at a time when it shouldn't have, right? It should have been given a little bit more time, a little bit more love. And so we are the arbiters
Yeah,
of
really.
deciding whether that, hits or not. And I think Stephen is always of the mind that if we need more time, we will take more time to make sure that it is what it needs to
absolutely,
be. So
Not to talk
just
over them, but
keeping
honestly,
that in mind. I know there's a flip side to both
of the
things.
same
It's
mind.
like the excitement that you want
Like,
something, but at the
and
same
this
time,
comes from
it's
someone's
kind of
really,
understanding
really
the other side
good
of it too.
at
If they're
finding
saying that
exploits and
it
glitches and
really is
bugs,
what you want.
and an
and
arcade
look,
player. Exploit
I
early,
don't want
exploit
to take
often
more
is a
time to
fucking
develop this
saying.
game. I would
Um,
love to
He
have
doesn't
this
want to take
game
more time
ready
or money.
tomorrow. I don't want to take more time and more
but
money. I mean,
Arcade
yeah.
didn't have a process for reporting that stuff, and they didn't
Trust
give a
me,
shit.
there's
So
no
at
objective
that point, well, yeah,
closer and
obviously I'm going to
dearer to
abuse
my
hard
heart
because everyone else is,
than that truth.
with no
However,
ramifications.
what I would
So,
say is
but
that I will always be willing to eat crow. I don't want to have to do it. But if the product calls for me to do it, then I will come here and I will talk to you about why it happened.
And it's not
Um,
fun to do that part,
and
but
it is not fun.
yeah,
It's not fun to do it.
leave us. We don't want to do it
proud
either.
of Steven. That
Next
does
one
take courage to
here
do.
is about employment logistics. And this is from Mr. Kawashima, and they want to know: given recent layoffs in the gaming industry, attributed to rising development cost, and it kind of very fitting with that conversation that we just had, and industry shifts, what proactive measures is Intrepid Studios taking to mitigate similar financial pressures? Are there contingency plans in place to
Nice.
avoid workforce
They're not
reduction
publicly traded,
while
as far as I'm
continuing
aware,
in the
which helps them a
development of
large
Ashes of
deal. But
Creation? I feel like one of our developers wrote this. No, I'm just
I
kidding.
know. I was
They're
gonna say.
like,
I
we
was
might
gonna
have the
say.
jobs for
somebody
That,
correct
MMO.
me
that,
on
that,
that. Actually, I
No,
don't
I'm just kidding.
think they
that
are,
is a good
but
segue
I've not
too.
actually
It's
looked.
something that's near and dear to my heart with regards to the financing side of it. Obviously, it has been a little bit of a rough time for the industry over the course of the last year and a half ish. There's been a lot of layoffs, and I'm not going to deny the fact um, that there is some silver lining to that truth within the industry for us as a company, us as a studio, us as a project, in the sense that we have been able to grow our ranks significantly over the course of the last year and a half, as you guys have witnessed, right? And those individuals who have joined this team are an incredibly and talented group of people. Um, and, when I think about what it takes for Intrepid to deliver upon this big promise that is Ashes of Creation, it takes those types of people and the quantities of people that we have working on this project. And that is an expensive endeavor. If I think about, we never really talk about finances for the company from a by the numbers perspective. And that's generally because we're not dependent on outside investors and publishers in order to deliver the game, right? And so it's important that, when we talk about what does it take to make Ashes of Creation, well, to date we've probably spent around 85 to 90 million dollars in the development and the creation of Ashes of Creation. And when we
Considering what
talk about,
systems they're
the
putting together
distribution
from
of that
scratch,
investment
I
within
actually
the
think
product,
the money
roughly,
spent is worth it.
30 million of that has come from pre-order
Unlike World of
sales and
Warcraft, where they
Kickstarter.
develop a
So
shit
there is a
garbage fucking raid,
significant
and the
personal
raid itself
interest
took 100
in the
million.
success of this
Yeah. I
company
think people
and of
think
this
that because they were a
product.
Kickstarter backer, they paid for like a big chunk of it. And it's like, oh no,
No, no,
homies.
no, 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 no.
But we've definitely,
No.
Steven has put in a lot of his
Right.
personal
So
money in
so
there.
just to be clear,
We appreciate
there
the
is
support though.
there is no greater interest and importance to the success of this team, of this product, than it means to myself and John. So when I think about how do we mitigate those financial pressures, we're in a unique position. As I said earlier, this is a unique story. Intrepid Studios. Intrepid Studios is a unique thing in the space of creating games. We not only do things differently from a financing perspective, we do things differently from a development perspective. We do things differently from a community engagement perspective. Because of how different we do things, it can be difficult to compare us to other teams or products as a result of that, because the parallel there is just not the same. Are there contingency plans to avoid workforce reductions while continuing the development of Ashes of Creation? The second part of this question. If it was necessary for us to engage with a foreign publisher for territories outside of North America and Europe, the quality of the product, I believe, in Alpha 2 is going to afford us that ability to do that engagement, right?
I think
That
they had
has the
my.com at
potential,
one point
when we think about,
in
additional
talks for doing
financing
European
contingencies,
deployment,
for us to engage with. And of course, we're interested in potential
which is
publishers for
that's a red flag.
some Asian territories and outside of Asia
But
that we are going to be engaging with when the product is ready for that stage of engagement. So that's an important thing to keep in mind.
but
I think the
what
other
do you
side
do,
of this
right?
Hopefully that
too is
answers your question.
I think the other side of this is how we also develop our product. So we try not to hire unless we need the role, like unless we know we have
Oh yeah,
work for that person to do. And in the cases where we have influxes of work, for instance, like hey, we have a bunch of things that need to be done, but we won't need that work forever. We contract out some of that work,
absolutely,
right? Like we will
So
hire
they're
absolutely.
like
intelligent
you
with
hire me
their
for 6 months and I do the
staffing.
thing, and then I'm like, so we're not we that person
Where a lot
knows
of
that
companies recently
their
haven't
job
been.
is to do that one thing and then they're gone. So it's not
And
like
just
you're hiring them and laying them off type of situation.
and just to add to that point, right? Sustainable growth has been a guiding principle of the studio over the course of development. So when you think about like, well, why is it taking so long to develop this game? We didn't start with 200 plus, full-time employees. We started with 6, and that grew to 12, and that grew to
Oh, my
20, and
phone
then it
just
grew
shook.
to
My bad.
40, and then 60, and then
I've tried to
like
put it on
there has
silent.
been a slow growth that is traditional with these types of projects as you move from a white paper phase to a pre-production phase to a production phase to QA phases. Like that is how growth works, right? When done correctly.
Right. Our next one here is about character creation. And this is from Balrog, and they want to know, can we get an update on when the character, we talked about this a little bit before, but this was the question that was there. Creation tool will be available. When does it launch? Presumably ahead of Alpha 2, because that's what we had stated previously. Will we have the option to reserve our names then? So kind of a two-parter. So
Two-parter. So we talked a little bit about the character creator, like as you said, it is going to be available, but as part of the client starting in phase 1. It's currently available now. Some people are getting some wonky results out of it as we do the bug fixes, but that's okay. Clayton's been doing a great job with that, as has the rest of the team. When it launches, presumably ahead of A2, will we have the option to reserve our names then? We will not have the option, I believe, to do the name reservations.
we're not going to do that
Perhaps
through the
until
character creator.
Oh no, we're not going to do this with the character creator. I
Yeah.
thought this was a second question. Second
No, it
question
was
is
part of it.
name. Oh, okay, sorry. So it's not going to be during character creator. We will get back to you on when name reservations will be available.
That'll be for
We
like the
might
actual
try to see
launch of
if
the
we can
game.
get
Who the
something
fuck
in
gives a
place
shit
by
what you're
phase
named
3,
in the
but
alpha?
no guarantees there.
It's
It might not
temporary
be until after.
anyways.
Yeah, it might be more in the beta phases. For
Yeah.
us, you know, we
Like
don't need
that's
any like.
I mean,
We
it's
don't
a
need
good
the
question
name
to ask. Not
reservation
to
for
like
us.
shit on the person who asked
But I
it,
Right,
understand that some
exactly.
people want
but
to have
it's
their
just
names on their
not. It's
streams
not
and a
something
little
we
bit
need to worry
wiki as
about.
well. It is nice to have.
If I can't get victim, I'll be victim 130. If I can't get victim 130, I'll be victim was taken. I don't know. I'll figure it out. I'm not gonna be too worried about it.
I was talking instead of prepping. I'm running the show
No
too.
worries. Oh, my
The
bad.
I'm victim of
The next
I can
naming.
one
Yeah,
dance a
there we
jig.
go.
Do you need me to
no,
dance?
you're good. The
Oh,
next one
okay.
is from R2 Aruntelli, and they want to
R2D2?
know
Oh.
about node scope. What is the expected scope for the node features for launch of A2? And what have you scoped for later development? We kind of showed this a little bit, but
Yeah,
they wanted to know level range, racial aesthetics. We didn't really talk about that in there, so maybe you can compound on that. And then amounts of nodes, node types, superpowers, etc.
absolutely. So we talked a little bit earlier, and I'll allow the kind of content creators to help enumerate the specifics of phase 1, 2, and 3's
I got you, man.
intended features and content releases. Node level ranges, right? We talked about starting at node level 3 in phase 1 and having some 4 systems online and potentially moving then to 4 and 5 within the succeeding phases. Racial aesthetics. This is an important one. So a lot goes in from a development perspective with regards to creating these assets, right? With creating building assets and building sets, hero pieces and props and set dressing pieces for a node. So to start in phase 1, we will have the Kalar, the Kalar aesthetic available for the race. Now, that doesn't mean that other races won't be able to contribute to nodes. It means that when they do, it'll be populating it with the Kalar aesthetic. In phase 2 and in phase 3, predominantly in phase 3, is when you will start to see other racial aesthetics come online, starting with Veyloon, moving to Empyrean. A lot of that stuff is stuff that we are going to be hiring, as Margaret talked about, contractors or outsourcers to kind of help us augment production of these assets for phase 3. The amount of nodes that's going to be growing as the playable space expands. We talked about bringing on the additional territories and biomes and zones coming out of the Riverlands and moving north and towards the east. Those will come online with different nodes becoming available within those locations. It's going to try to feel as organic as possible. Again, the whole concept here is that you're the first settlers, the first wave of people coming into this world, and slowly you're going to grow out from this starting area and creating this world around you. And then we're going to be playing with the superpowers. We're going to be testing those and kind of landing on the types of design elements that we want to include as part of the superpowers. We talked in the past about what those superpowers are. That'll be the
So
first
fucking hot
iteration of
out.
it, but I highly
God damn.
suspect that is going to be a category that undergoes significant iteration, and also how node types interact with each other. And
I was trying to
we
think of
talked
like how I
in
was
the
gonna
phase 1, 2, and 3
like
discussion
And
about the
Vaseline
different
too.
node types
add
and
to
when
what
they'll
he's
come
saying
online.
here in
Absolutely.
like a reaction type way.
Definitely, when we
Realistically,
send
that's a
out
question I had
the
and he
article
answered it.
tomorrow
I
with
don't got much
the
to add to
larger
that.
images of everything, you can kind of get in there and check it out. But like everything says in there,
I wasn't
subject to
certain
change.
if
Keep
it
that
was
in
fully
mind.
outlined in the
Those are our
thing,
goals. The next
the
question
phase
here
chart.
is about player corruption, and this is from Dolvim, and they want to know how
Ooh,
complete is
that's a
the
good
player
question.
corruption system currently, and what is the predicated timeline of the player
Predicted.
corruption system development during Alpha 2?
Yeah, player corruption at the start of phase 1 will have the ability to gain corruption, the ability to kill the players and cause experience debt, the multiple types of experience debt modifiers that apply to corrupted or to combatant players, the timeline for additional player corruption system development. I believe actually there's stat dampening that's online as well. for the corruption value and for the experience debt that's accrued. So it's fully functional in phase 1.
All right. And the next one is about dueling. Will we get a duel system implemented for the start of Alpha 2 so we don't have to flag to practice PvP, risking getting corruption? And this is from Lineker.
The dueling system will not be online for the start of Alpha 2. Dueling will likely be a phase 3
So
feature.
we just got to make sure when we
However,
flag on
if
each
you
other, we
want to
don't
duel
kill
other
each other is
players
effectively
in the
it.
start of phase 1, it will likely be possible for you to do that in the lawless territories. However, you could get ganked in those locations. So be careful out there. It's a dangerous world.
All right. And then Hessus wants to know about our standout feature. As Alpha 2 launches, which feature or systems are you most confident will showcase the game's unique potential? And what aspects do you anticipate will require the most iteration based on player feedback?
Probably nodes.
I
That's my
think that
guess.
the feature and system that I'm most confident will showcase the game's unique potential. I think that as it relates to nodes and the dynamic world systems
Yeah.
are the most unique element, from a gameplay perspective for Ashes.
And iteration based on player
And
feedback. Probably not nodes
probably have
specifically,
greatest
but like the
focus on
politics side of it
player
all.
feedback when it comes
Like
to
taxes,
Alpha
governance,
2.
you know?
What is unique about that? I mean, it is the fact that you are in a sandbox and that sandbox reacts to the actions not just of you individually, but you rhetorically as a community. That is
All right, I hate to
something
do
that
this, but I
serves a
am
lot of
very
different
thirsty.
world state predicates to inform spawners for population,
I was
to
gonna wait till the
inform
end of
to inform
the
dungeons, to
AMA,
inform
the stream
reward
rather, to
tables,
explain what's going on with me,
inform dialogue
and our
paths
plans.
and story arcs.
But
Like those are the things
so
that I
just know
think
I
are most
actually really do
interesting.
need to get some.
From a superficial, not superficial, excuse me, from
I can
a
still hear it though.
visual perspective, I
So
think
all's good.
seasons are probably going to be the most unique visual thing for players. Being in a single area and watching that area change drastically between seasons is something that is perhaps we're a bit foreign to when it comes to MMORPGs. Traditionally, those areas just are static. And I think that's going to be, and it's also tied into the dynamic world state. So I think that it's going to be something that's really interesting. What is going to require the most iteration based on player feedback? I think that I think systems like the caravan system. I think that systems like
Okay. So I was a bit wrong on the second half of
I
that
think
question, but all right,
systems like
let's go.
our archetype designs and ability designs perhaps are going to have a lot of iteration. Our weapon designs,
Ooh, that's fair.
I think those are going to have a lot of iteration.
All right. Moving on to the next one. World bosses. I saw someone in chat being like, when are they going to talk about PvE? We've definitely talked about PvE in this previous slides, but how many world bosses
I think
will
they
we
said,
have access to
didn't they say
in
3?
Alpha 2? And what are some of your favorites?
In phase 1 will be 3 world bosses. So phase 1 there will be 3 world bosses.
It's the dragon and
And
Tumok,
then we
probably,
will
right?
be releasing additional world bosses in phase 2 and phase 3. Obviously, as the world expands and as those additional bosses come
I don't know what
online.
the third one would be
What are
offhand.
some of my
I think.
favorites? I'm a dragon nerd. I've always been a dragon nerd. I
Same.
have
I'm with you. I'm with you on
an
that one, Steven.
awesome dragon deck in Commander that I love to play that has just so many dragons in it. And we have a dragon. We have a dragon. We have a dragon. We have a dragon in Alpha 2,
Yeah.
the Firebrand dragon, which actually I think we're going to be seeing this month.
Yeah, you will be.
Did we announce that?
No,
Or
I
did I
don't think
mess
we
up?
did, but now we did.
Uh-oh. Now we know.
Uh-oh.
We're seeing a
Now we
dragon.
know. The next question, and that was from Knife Party. Thank you, Knife Party. Moving on to Skylark, the botanist wants to know a very fitting name for this question about artisan professions. Which artisan professions will be available at the start of Alpha 2, and what tier progression will be available for those professions? And I know we talked about tier 3 in a previous slide.
Yeah, we talked about it earlier. All artisanship professions will be available at the start of A2 Phase 1. However, they will not have associated skill trees with them in Phase 1. That will come online in later phases that we talked about up above, all subject to change. And and what tiers of progression? They will have the first 3 tiers of progression available starting in Phase 1, particularly as it relates to predicates for tool access, resource gathering capabilities, and the certification quests.
All right, next one is about archetype updating. Will the tank and cleric get a bit of a rework to get them on the same page or same level of awesomeness like the ranger, fighter, and bard before Alpha 2 launches? And this is from PJDW.
Tank looks pretty good already. Does it really
That's
need to?
subjective, I guess.
Cleric maybe a little bit.
It is
Yeah,
a good
cleric maybe a
read.
little bit.
I think that is a good read. I would include mage in the tank and cleric part of this question. I think it's tank, cleric, and mage is currently on the docket for the PC team, the player character team, to kind of revamp, to bring up to par. What is happening?
We're getting rated
Oh
by
my
Pirate
goodness!
Software. Thank you, Pirates.
Welcome, pirates. Please don't take my booty.
One sec, guys. I have to get up for a minute.
Booty's treasure, just to be clear. So
HR.
Oh no, HR. Yeah, I would say that there are definitely plans for us to rework them and bring them to the same level of awesomeness.
And the next
And
one.
by rework, I just mean expand and polish and yeah.
Yeah. The next one here is about in-game support. Can you talk about general in-game support and support ticket process? For Alpha 2, for example, will there be human in-game GMs to assist with issues? And I think I'll probably take this one since
Sure.
I run that team.
Get some.
So from our perspective, we will have people who will have access to being in-game and helping support if needs be. But our goal for Alpha 2 is we are not going to be assisting at the same capacity that we would be for launch. At launch, we do want to have in-game GMs. We do want to have support outside of that with our ticketing system. Right now, the main thing that we'll be helping with is account and billing issues. So if you have any of those or technical issues, like if you're having issues downloading or things like that, you can contact us, or access to this forum section or the Discord section. Those are things that we will be supporting on the CS side. So it will be kind of what you're used to currently, but also
I didn't think anyone was coming back.
Access
I thought they were staying the night. So I heard the door open and I got a little fucking confused. I was like,
as we
oh.
expand and we get more tools,
Nobody's
for
supposed to be here.
service, we will be trying to test out those tools.
Plans change.
That
That's
would be
all. We're
things
good.
like in-game support for if your quest is broken or something like that, or items, something happens to an item down the line closer to betas. That's when we'll be supporting those things. But for Alpha 2, that will not be the case. So it'll be a little bit more slim.
Oh, I'm
Alpha
sad
2,
I missed
but
this
as we
question.
expand, we'll be hiring on more staff. We'll be doing more support.
I'm assuming, based on what she just said,
the
no, there
community
will not
front,
be.
Though we will be assisting you guys with in-game things.
But they
and
plan
having a lot
to
of fun
eventually?
with
That's
you
neat.
and
That's a
kind
good
of
idea.
assisting with questions and answers and stuff like that. So it'll be a
Okay.
little bit different for each of the phases as we expand and get more tools for our staff.
Faux show.
Yeah.
Good to
But we
hear,
do want to,
as it were.
just, we gotta make sure that our focus right now is developing the game, not developing tools for our customer support. We actually have a lot
Well,
of
we don't
tools
need GMs in
comparatively
game
to,
yet.
I've worked on a lot of projects, and
There's no
usually
like
CS has
long-term
no
persistence
tools
that we need
until maybe
guarded and
post-launch.
protected,
So
right? So fair.
we're in a good space comparatively. But yeah. Next up is going to be studio culture, which this is what Scenaris wants to know about. How do you guys feel about the practice of crunch? Do you think there's a possibility you will use this practice to get Alpha 2 release over the line?
Yes. So first, I would say, from a studio culture perspective, that we have been a studio for the past 8.5 years. And that studio, as we said earlier, has grown significantly over that period of time and in a sustainable fashion. And over the course of 8.5 years, I can recall on one hand how many times that we have incorporated crunch for the team as a whole. Now, to be clear, I want to talk about the differences between what crunch is and what people who are passionate that take it upon themselves to work harder at their jobs, um, and pull additional hours because they want to get something done and surprise the team, or they ran into an issue but still want to execute on their sprint commitments, or whatever that might be. At times there is some heroics that happens, right? But that I don't associate with crunch. And always I believe that
Okay, good. He's
from a
got a
studio
good
perspective,
definition.
from a
That's
cultural
good.
perspective, there is
Good
a
sign, I
very
should say.
important component of work-life balance. I feel that mentally. I know that every single one of us, whether you're working in the game industry or not, you need time to detach, you need time to step away, you need time to refresh, you need time to recharge. And crunch is directly antithetical to that thought at times. Now, there have been a lot of awesome products in the past that have launched and did so with crunch. So crunching isn't necessarily something that prevents creating a good product, but it can be very detrimental to the retention of a team, the passion of a team, the good
Morale.
work of a team, the morale of the team. Exactly. All of those things. I will say to you that I view crunch as a failure of planning. I view it as the inability to either correctly identify scope of a particular feature or content request, the inability to identify dependencies, the inability to plan accordingly for resources, right? These are all reasons why crunch occurs. The hard fact and truth, unfortunately, about crunch is that sometimes the choice is either crunch or fail, and teams have to make a decision in weighing what failure means, because different types of failures mean different things, right? And currently the studio is in a phase of crunch. I am not proud of that. That is a direct reflection of myself, of
Well,
the leadership of my studio, that we are in a state of
I thought
crunch.
someone was coming in. My bad.
That state of crunch will be ending in September. So, are we leveraging crunch right now to get some features and content deliverables above water? Yes, we are. But we have done that 3 times in our 8.5-year history as a studio. And while I am not happy with the fact that we are crunching currently, it is something that we take very seriously and we do not incorporate as part of a culture of Intrepid Studios. And as a matter of fact, for those of you who might be watching that are in the industry or developers, when you think about a place to work, what does leadership view crunch as? That is an important question to ask.
As long as he
I will tell you
understands
that
crunch,
that
and it
right
sounds like he
now
fundamentally does,
we have failed
and
at
isn't an
arriving at
asshole,
this crunch
which
scenario.
doesn't seem like he
But
is.
we are doing
Obviously,
it
hard to say. I don't
because
work in
we as
Intrepid.
a
I can't say
collective
for
group are
sure.
very passionate about delivering something to our community, and
Then
in
it
the
may not
time
be
frame that we have set
as
forth.
bad as
And so we do get some limited gains
other
out of that right
industry
now, but it
areas of
is
the
not a
industry.
long-term solution. It should never be a solution that is looked to as a plan. It is a worst-case scenario contingency.
All right. Moving on from the
You know what?
soapbox.
It's fucking brave of him to
Steve's
admit
I
that.
know. I'm
philosophical.
sorry. I was in a soapbox. That was me flogging myself. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I was going to say
The
that is pretty much
developers
him
are
flogging
watching. I have
himself.
this,
There's going to be people who do not
vlog.
accept that he is
Yeah,
remorseful
yeah.
about it.
Yeah, it's a hard one, but uh, we're moving on to the next question. Here is about game rating. This is from Frost01. At this beginning of this project, you said that you were aiming for the game to be rated teen. Is that still the goal?
No, I believe that our game will be rated M for mature based on some of the narratives and content that we are implementing.
I was going to say, it's going to be really fucking hard to not hit
Moving on to
M.
the next one. Gameplay loop. What is expected to be the primary gameplay loop during Alpha 2? Ooh. And that is from Rive.
So that primary gameplay loop is
Is
going
testing.
to evolve a little bit over the phases, right? And we talked a little bit
But
earlier about that. I won't necessarily rehash that. What are the focuses of those phases? But when I think about kind of a primary gameplay loop, I think about players having agency. I think about players influencing the world. I think about players reacting to dynamic world states. I think about players forging relationships. I think about friction between players. I think about rewards that are make or break, that are risky, that require community and collaboration in order to achieve. Um, those are the types of loops that we espouse in across a number of different features, right? So, yeah.
All right. The next question here is about guilds. What guild systems will be at the start of Alpha 2?
I talked a little bit about this earlier. That's
I
going to
think it
be
was
the
outlined
ability
earlier,
to
right?
create guilds, to invite players to guild, to kick players from guilds. That'll be in phase 1. In phase 2 and phase 3, we'll start implementing the abilities for guilds to gain levels, to collect experience, to do guild quests, and to invest in guild skills.
All right. And the final question from the pre-canned questions, then I have a few that I'm just going to grab from live chat and stuff like that I have prepped from our wonderful community and social team. Live streams. Once Alpha 2 launches, will the monthly live streams be focused more on
Oops.
what is coming
I'm hovering the
soon
buttons
to
in case I
Alpha
need to hit
2
them.
since we'll already be able to see what is currently available? And this is from Darth Aiden. And I'll kind of take this one a little bit. In regards to live streams post Alpha 2, we will be doing some really cool community oriented things. So we're going to be running some events that we'll probably pre-record and kind of share those experiences with you guys so that we don't get I've done some live events, so we may choose to do some live events, but what happens sometimes is everyone kind of like joins and it gets a little crazy as far as server realm crashes and things like that. So we may pull some people aside, bring some people in and involve them into some fun events. And we'll bring those events to all the servers, but we may just record and share parts of that. In regards to patch notes and kind of sharing information, we also plan to do some cool videos in regards to that and sharing that information with you guys so you can see what's up and
I never
coming
really thought about this question
through the time
till now.
through the
I was just
pipeline,
thinking about it
as
in my
well
head.
as kind of showcasing the stuff that
Yeah,
is
what will
currently
they?
in Alpha 2. So we'll kind of it'll be a little bit different than what you've experienced in the past, but it will still make a lot of fun. We'll still give you updates. We'll still take you along on this journey so you can see the game progress as it moves forward, but you're probably going to
That's
see
good to
it
hear.
shift more to a very
I didn't expect
community-oriented
anything
thing.
different,
We may
but
even
that,
have some content
yeah, I guess
creators
good to have
being
reinforcement.
involved in some of those live streams. It's just going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to be the most fun for my team because that's when we get to like interact with you guys the most and have you guys be part of it. Maybe we'll even show like some of the top plays from the experiences or what's going on with each of the realms and what nodes are progressing and who's doing what, who's taken over which castles, and kind of like sharing a lot of like more of the community oriented fun stuff that you kind of expect from a game whenever it's moving and grooving. Anything else you want to
Absolutely.
add on that front, Stephen?
No, I'm excited. The
Yeah.
team is excited. It is a moment of both joy, excitement, and anxiety, all wrapped up into one little cute bundle.
So I have 3 more questions that I want to ask, or
Yes.
4
Oh,
more, I
my bad.
think.
Okay. Yes.
One
Ask all the
is
questions.
it was said that Alpha 2 would run until launch. Uh,
Mhm.
and then we had stated that there may be an end date, so they're saying there is an end date question mark, and this kind of fits in line with the next
I
one,
mean, there
which is
has to
what
be.
is going on with the PTR? Is Alpha 2 access going to then
Yes.
result in the PTR access, and how is
Al-
that going to work?
Alpha 2 is still intended to morph into the PTR. And if you have Alpha
Oh,
2
I didn't know that.
access for
Okay.
any of the phases, you will have access to all subsequent Alpha 2 testing phases, which includes when it becomes the PTR. And Alpha 2 will run until the beta phases. Again, the idea is to take our content and feature release trains that we currently
Oh,
have
I guess he
internally
did mention that
and to
earlier
now
too.
start moving
Brain's
that
not
into
all
a
spun up.
live service Alpha 2 as we see those updates come on that 6-week cadence. And yeah, hopefully that
So
answers your
it
question.
will run alongside with beta 1 and beta 2.
That's correct.
So when
Yes.
alpha 2 ends, beta 1 will start, and then you'll kind of see that phase, that those realms. We'll change it to be kind of more of like a testing realm that you can see content that's coming up the line. We may even ask people to join that to test things before
Yep.
it goes to the beta. Are we going to NDA that during that phase, or would
There,
that all be accessible?
um, during those phases, as we move into betas, there will be NDA testing for
The
some of
PTR.
those.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Just want to set expectations on that front. Then the next one is, will you increase the maximum level cap from phase 1 through 3?
Yes, mainly in phase 3. So phase 3 is where level cap will start to rise.
And then someone asked,
Yeah, because I
what
think they mentioned
happened
adding archetypes
to
in,
the Monster
being able to pick a
Coin and
secondary
Animal
in
Husbandry
phase 3 as
system?
well.
Are they planned for Alpha 2?
So we would
Those
have
will
to
be,
be able to
those
evolve
will be
them.
later.
Husbandry, I thought. Or those are...
Animal husbandry, I believe,
We
is in
brought up in
phase
phase
3
2.
or phase 2.
Yeah.
Is it
Just the
phase 2? I
breeding
don't know.
part
I'm
would be there.
scrolling up.
I don't think it's
Yeah,
the full system.
anything that you see that's in phase 3 again pertains to the first few months of phase 3 beginning, and then after that, those additional systems will come online sometime between phase 3 and beta.
Yeah. I think Monster Coin wasn't on there, but Animal Husbandry was definitely on our list.
It
And
was. We
Steven,
talked about
we
it. I
made
saw it.
We made
Did
it
we
to
really?
Yeah, we made it to the
Yeah.
end.
Oh my God, we did it.
It's long. Thank you all so much
We did it.
for hanging with us. We know that we explained a lot of stuff here. There's a lot to go through. Like we said before, we will have the video up on YouTube for you pending tomorrow morning, hopefully, pending YouTube cooperates with us and Twitch cooperates with us. But we'll also have an article, and that article will be linked in the video, and it will be linked on our website, and that will have all of the slide pages so that you can like look at them in more depth if you want. Like we said before, though, just reiterating, and as those slides say even on them, things are subject to change, but we are going to keep you informed of those changes. So as we get closer to Alpha 2 for phase 1, you are going to see some updates from us in regards to that. You'll see some articles that will come out, some videos that will come out, things along those lines that will kind of explain the guide to Alpha 2 at the start. And then as we have game updates, we'll be providing you with the information on what is in each of those game updates, whether that's patch notes for the 3-week one, or it's the big game update ones for the 6-week ones, but we'll definitely keep you all informed of what's coming down the line. What else do I want to make sure you guys are aware of? For the alpha key, or for the second wave, or first wave, second wave, and third wave key information, we will be providing more information on with an FAQ and an article next week in regards to that. So when that goes live on Wednesday, you'll have all of the information about that, as well as an FAQ, and we'll hopefully answer as much questions as possible in that, as we have done in the past with previous things that we've sold. So hopefully that will give
This was
everybody
a
an understanding of everything.
ride of a live stream.
Please join us at the end of this month. We're going to have another development update for you. We would love for you guys to join us. And thank you
I
for
leaked
watching.
that it's going to be a dragon in that.
There's going to be a raid, so you might want to come check it out. For all of those people who love,
We might get to see a bit
PvP.
more about how
raiding
gearing
is my big
works
thing.
in that
I
live
was
stream
telling
too.
the
I kind of hope
community
that's
like
that's
raiding
a
and
something I
dungeons
want to
and
know.
like epic raid dungeons are like my favorite things. So again, thank you guys for watching. Thank you for submitting all your questions. There was a lot for us to go to. Fortunately, when we were going through the questions, a lot of the questions were questions we were already answering in our deck, which means that we're on par with you guys. We are mind melding about what you guys want to see, and a lot of that was a lot of detail.
There is one thing I do want to clarify that I noticed a few commentaries about. I'm sorry, before we kind of
I'm gonna
finish
fix
this up.
the typos too before I post the article.
No worries. and by the way, I am going to spend some time tonight and this weekend in Discord, interacting with the community and perhaps answering some questions, a little ad hoc question sessions. So if there were some questions that you did not get answered here in the AMA, I will be joining, and I know Lex and the Ashes Wikis always does a great job in collecting that data and representing it there, and I'm sure content creators will be scouring through what I say over the weekend and be bringing to you some reviews.
The wiki
with
guys
some
are
of those
probably, or
questions
guys and gals
answered.
are probably going crazy right now. They're like overdrive.
I
Absolutely. But
probably
I do want
won't
to
be.
To
clarify.
help them.
I do want to clarify
But
for those of you who
there'll
are
be plenty
asking
of people who will,
questions
I hope.
about the key sales, that phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 are the subsequent phases of the phase that you purchase at if you are choosing to be a tester, not to play a game. If you're choosing to be a tester, they do include the subsequent phases as well. They
Yeah.
are just keys for alpha. They do not include beta 1 or beta 2 or any other game time with them. And it is important to remember and to hit this home
Mostly we're
that
doing all our testing solo,
you are
boys.
participating in
That's
a
all right.
test. You are not playing a game. It is very important as a community, as content creators, that we espouse that information. And then the other point is, gosh, I missed it. Actually, I lost where I was going to come. Oh, sorry. So purchasing phase 1 access. It lists phase 1 access as starting in the weekend of November, I think it's 8th. Is that
November
right?
8th, yeah.
Now, that means that only Alpha 2 key holders who have the pre-order
So we will
packages
get
that have purchased prior to these new keys being
what,
available,
2 weekends
you will be
prior?
the only ones who have access to the first and second weekends. That
Yeah.
October
October
25th
25th, yeah.
and November, I'm sorry, is it 3rd or 2nd?
I think it's more than, yeah, I think it might be more than 2.
Oh,
I
is
have
it?
to look at the calendar. I have everything closed
I know, I do too.
because I'm trying to not
And it's all so
ruin my
small.
internets.
I don't want to put my old man glasses on to look
Yeah,
at
it would be
it.
November 2nd, right?
Here we go. Let me see here. The 25th and then the 1st. So it is 2 weekends.
Okay.
So those
Oh, wait,
two
no, sorry. I
weekends
see
will
where
be
my math was
weekends
wrong.
that are not included as part of these new keys. These new keys are only phase 1 starting the weekend of the 8th, and then the week-long testing starting December 20th.
Yeah.
For phase 2. So keep that in mind.
It's good points. And of course, we will reiterate
Oh,
things. Yes, go ahead.
last thing, I'm so sorry.
No, go for it.
I also noticed the question here. Those new keys will begin their sale on, is it the 21st we said?
Yes.
Yep.
So the 21st is when those keys will be available.
Yep. And we'll
And
have
the
an article
last
that goes over everything too with an
and
FAQ.
the super last thing I just want to reiterate one last time is everything we discussed here is potentially subject to change. We will be open and honest about why, if a thing changes, it changes. But just keep in mind that when it changes, we said it's possible it change. So keep that in mind.
Yeah,
Please make sure
Jim,
you
Joe, and
guys
Bob. Bob,
share
Joe,
that
Jim.
with the rest of
Jim,
the
Joe,
community.
Bob. Bob,
We are here
Jim, Joe.
to iterate on what we're building, to test what we are playing with the players, and we will take that information and make the changes necessary as a result.
Yeah, and your feedback may dictate how we're changing things and how long it takes us to change those things. So, yes, definitely, we'll keep you guys in the loop. Like we said, you'll be seeing a lot of communication coming from us, a lot more, especially because we're going to have updates and things coming every like 3 to 6 weeks. So, expect that. Like we said before, this video will be up on our YouTube channel. It'll be on Twitch right after when we close down here. We will share things on all of our social channels. We implore you to come follow us in all of the places. We're Ashes of Creation everywhere. We post daily, almost daily, I would say, sometimes multiple times a day. So come check it out. Give us some love over there, retweet, share things. All of that goes a long way to helping us, have more eyes on what we're creating. And of course, we'll see you all at the end of the month for another good game development update.
Woo! We did it. Bye, everybody.
Right.
Boy, Steven. All right. So I mentioned early on that at the end I had things I wanted to talk about. Some of those were reliant on things in the live stream. I just want to make sure they weren't like talking over that or anything. And then normally don't, but anyway. I guess first thing I'll mention is anyway, it was you know what? I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It was rocky. I'll explain why. I'll give an overview. For why. I think so. Anyways. But I guess the elephant in the room. I mentioned last time. For the monthly live stream reaction, I did mention that if the keys were cheap enough, I would potentially maybe do a giveaway, maybe hand some out to the guys. I'm gonna be real, at $120 to have you come in at the beginning, considering I only paid 150, I don't really think that that's a good price point. I just don't. Especially whereas it's just Alpha 2 testing. And you know, it's a large testing phase. I don't think there's anything wrong with someone being like, you know what, fuck it, YOLO, I want to play this game the moment I fucking can. I think that there's probably some fairness. They're also trying to price the keys at a point where people who already bought the keys that might get annoyed, whether it's because they're jaded or they have some like I don't know. I don't know the word to use there is. I don't want to be mean, as obviously money means something. It means something to people in different ways and whatever. But I also think that it's kind of a dumb take to gatekeep it something like this when realistically the more testers the better. Um, I know some people don't actually give a shit about that. There's going to be people that no matter how much you beat it over their head that it is a testing phase, they're going to go into it expecting to be entertained and expect it to be a complete experience. Looking at you, Jim, you, Joe, and you, Bob. Uh, you know who you are. You're not real. You're three fake people I just made up tonight. But um, ultimately, yeah. Long story short, I would have liked them to be a bit cheaper. Honestly, I think somewhere in the 30 to like $60 USD range would have been more reasonable in my books. Um, which is a bit sad because I wanted to get more of them out to people. I was ready to purchase keys um for that purpose, but so I guess apologies that I even mentioned it. I should have waited to see um what they were priced at, knowing that that was going to be a pain point for me um before making any mention of it. But I just figured I'd be transparent that I probably will not do so anymore. Not unless there's like a large, I guess, outpouring. My last VOD. Oh, I just hit my desk. My bad. My last VOD actually popped off. Did pretty good. So I don't know. I guess it depends on how things go. But likely not. That said, I did something I've mentioned over the last 2 or 3 VODs, or streams for that matter. I do still intend to do content for the games in the game this singular game um through like I'll do like class overviews and eventually maybe even class guides, maybe the game system overviews and things like that, and it basically just like outline these things. I guess in Alpha 2 it'll be mostly for the purposes of like providing like a platform to show people who didn't get into the alpha potentially, to kind of like present to them what is available currently, so maybe other people that like in that realm can provide their own feedback um without having to have bought in. It's kind of one of my goals for that. um Aside with maybe trying to help people make their long-term decisions, because I know I'm like that. I look at a game or very early on and think, okay, which class am I going to play? I'm doing it with Ashes. It's like I want to try Rogue. Will I like Rogue? If I had to play Rogue at launch and only Rogue at launch, and I fucking ended up hating it by the time I hit max level, I'm probably not leveling up a second character. It's just straight, to be honest with you. I would be annoyed and bothered, and it would be my own fault, but helping people make those choices is something that maybe I may not be fully equipped to do yet, and have to come into, but I understand the value of it being that guy, right? Being that person. Um, but anyways, digressing a little bit. Um, to actually talk about the live stream itself, my I guess my thoughts on it. I already mentioned I think the key sales were necessary. I think they are priced a little bit too high, personally. I suppose I've heard Steven, Mr. Sharif, if you will, goes around and watches videos and VODs and things. If you are for whatever reason here, because I don't know, we hit 700. I think we're encroaching like 800, maybe even more at this point, depending on how the algorithm feeds that out to people. People reacting or people watching my reactions rather. So if you're somehow out there and you're viewing this, I don't know what you have planned, if you're planning on doing like key giveaways or anything like that. If you're interested in someone kind of doing those overviews and guides and things, and you're feeling extra generous, like an extra key that I could hand out to a dude just so I have like a body to beat on, would be like fucking like super chill. Um, I know I'm reaching real hard right now. Like an extra Alpha 2 key, I mean. Um, but hey, regardless, yeah. Other things with the stream. He talked about Crunch. That's actually something I really wanted to touch on. Um, Crunch sucks. Some other games that I've enjoyed, that like Cyberpunk 2077 had large amounts of crunch. I think they said The Witcher 3 also did too, just CD Projekt Red in general. But there's been plenty of games over the years that have had crunch. I feel like I don't think he was avoiding this, for the record, but I am a little sad that he didn't really go into what he would call crunch. We know that he differentiates crunch from like someone deciding to work overtime because they're really passionate or they have something they really want to do, or maybe they're just feeling cheeky and they want to be like, hey guys, look what I got done, and you thought it'd take me 2 weeks, it only took me one, like things like that. And that's fine. I think honestly allowing game developers to be passionate about their projects, or allowing workers to be passionate about their work in general, is good. It's healthy. Obviously if someone's working like 10 hours overtime every day, maybe you'd be like, yo bro, stay out of the office. take a vacation. Here's a vacation. 7 days, don't come to work. um Rewarding such passion, I suppose, in that regard. But anyways, I do wish that he had outlined crunch. Like, what is he making them work like an hour or two extra than they normally would? Are they working fucking 80-hour weeks? Because crunch can get really fucking egregious, really fucking disgusting shit. And no matter how much he's willing to be like what do you say? Well, I guess to be admitting to and to be remorseful of, doesn't really change the fact that you're maybe working these people to the bone. Maybe you're, fucking 80-hour weeks is disgusting. That's a lot of fucking time to be working in a week. Um, and not of your own volition, I mean. But like if it's like a couple hours extra, or like if 5 to 10 hours extra, like that's significantly less bad than like what people are going to immediately think of, right? And maybe it's only certain groups, and maybe he has like these few employees do it this week, and then these few employees do it the next week, and he's being a decent manager about it. There's plenty of different ways that could go, and and obviously it's really hard to go into that. And if you were to like deep dive it, there's always chance that he leaves something out that makes it look even worse. I get why he didn't do it. And I think it's still rather fucking brave to just admit that it is happening. And brave of him to make a clear distinction between someone working overtime of their own volition and someone working crunch because the studio dictates it. So, while I wish it wasn't happening at all, obviously, it'd be cool if they did not do that and made strides to never do it again. Fair, I don't work in the industry. I'm not a manager. I am at best an armchair dev. And in reality, I am just a advanced video game player in the grand scheme of like game development. I don't got much in the way of like actual hands-on development time, so I can't really speak to it. I don't really understand the ins and outs, and it doesn't sound like it's too bad. Obviously, things can change. If tomorrow they went on strike and all the developers were like, "Bro's got us working like 120-hour weeks," I'd be like, "Yeah, okay, all right, Steven, you fucked up, brother." But I don't think that's what's happening. So, but I'm willing to eat those words, I guess. Long story short. But where else were we going with this? What else did he say that I really wanted to touch on? I still kind of think putting dates to things was a stupid idea, but I will at least say, you know what? He did his due diligence. He told people, listen, these are fucking malleable dates. They don't fucking mean shit. If I decide tomorrow that they're obsolete dates, then he will. And at least as long as he's being transparent about it, I don't think there should be a problem. Do not take vacation time. Just play them when you get your free time. It's testing phases. They're just looking for testers. You don't got to be all that gung ho about it. I don't think it really fucking matters, right? So I think that's fine. That's fair. I think in terms of what's coming up in the phases, it's more than I was expecting. Phase one's a little light than I was expecting, but I'd say by the time we're hitting phase three, also I didn't expect it to go in through to beta. That's pretty good. I figured we'd have like a time off, like Alpha 2 would just end and we'd go back to like monthly live streams, and then like I don't know, like 6 months down the line beta would hit. But that's cool that Alpha 2 is going to go straight through into beta, and I think it's also going to be the PTR. So the alpha servers, I don't know, he didn't really if he clarified, I missed it. But that might also mean that only alpha key holders 1 and 2 are going to get access to the PTR to begin with. So does that mean that we're going to be in on like pre-beta testing before patches hit the beta? It sounded like it was under NDA, but still, that's pretty fucking cool. Kind of all in with Ashes, honestly. So if that's what ends up happening, I'm down for it. I think NDA testing is kind of shitty in terms of being a content creator, because it's hard to dedicate a significantly large amount of time when I could just be streaming it, right? But I like Ashes. I like where it's going. I believe in the project, and I would be willing to set aside that time, if that is what they are asking, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think there's anything else really about the stream that I'm totally needs of like outlining again. Some of you may have noticed that I had intermittent bursts of energy throughout the stream, and was getting quieter as it went on. I'm actually really sick. Well, I say really. I don't know if I'm really sick. I am sick at the moment. My throat feels raw as shit. I mentioned it, I think, at some point throughout the stream. I haven't really streamed in the past 16 days. The last stream I did was literally the live stream reaction from last month. Part of that was because my father and my sister went away, and so I wanted to be available in case my mom needed help, which she ended up needing help quite a bit, making like supper and cleaning and basic stuff. So I think I made the right call. But also I got sick when they came back, so that's why I didn't end up streaming right away. They were only gone for 10 days, but so that was 6 days extra. I didn't stream. I just got sick. That's all it is, really. I just and I am still kind of sick. That's why I earlier I was like I was putting it off because I forgot to grab a drink. But I had to get something, man. I was like it's like really hot here right now, and I was fucking dying of dehydration. So I had to take a detour to get something to drink. I was sitting here fucking dying. Um, so yeah, if there's any scuffed moments throughout the stream that isn't just like audio quality, because I know that can be a little wonky on my end. Um, that's probably why my brain's probably like not fully spun up. I feel fucking exhausted right now, and I've only been awake for a couple of, well, like what, like 4 or 5 hours now. So apologies on that. I guess preemptive apologies. What Ashes content is going to your new? Oh, right, I should talk about my new channel. That's another thing we should be talking about. I don't know why I had almost forgotten. So at current, I don't know what we're gonna put on there. I want to do an outline video of who I am in terms of like what I bring. So like probably I'll do like this will be like a channel introduction video probably, right? Where I'll be like, "Hey, listen, I've played MMOs. I've got thousands of hours in them. I I've played one of the games that directly inspires Ashes, and I have, you know, I think I have like a very unique outlook on these things because I come at them from XYZ. You know, effectively, I think that'll be what we'll start with. For those of you who are curious, in the VOD, on the VOD, you can actually navigate through my channel to my about page, and I actually have a link to it now. I think it'll say main YT, main YouTube. There's nothing there yet, but if you want to go and follow and subscribe to me there, you would be an absolute Chad. Um, for when I do put some stuff up there. And like I said, eventually, when I finally have my hands on Ashes, we're gonna probably try to do overview videos of mechanics, guides, probably further into like Alpha 2 and Beta, as well as probably just other like videos. Like I'll probably upload things like PvP videos and things like that. Maybe like caravan runs, you know, just things, just ultimately just content. I want to try and provide something for the community, not just entertainment. But we'll see how that goes. I want to try my hand at it effectively. I can't promise everything's going to be edited very well, but it'll be there. But yeah, to start, I'll probably do an introductory video about who I am and what my plans are. Probably kind of just structuring more of what I'm outlining now. And I'll probably try to get that up closer to Alpha 2. Mostly because I don't really know how to script videos very well. Writer, by the way. But I'm not really big on writing scripts. I've never really done it. So it's something I want to look into a little bit. And when I say look into it, I'm not gonna like do research probably. I would just like try to figure out a structure that works for me. Because I feel like if I'm gonna write like guides or overviews for mechanics and stuff, probably be better not to just talk out my ass while I'm doing that. I figure, but yeah. Regardless of that, though, please follow me. You can actually subscribe to my VODs channel is cool. Because I'll probably still upload VODs there. If you want to follow my main YouTube, there is a link to that now. If you would like to follow me on Twitch, because I will be streaming, well, lots of things, but specifically Ashes when that comes around. That's cool, and thank you. I have a Twitter and a Discord that I don't think the Discord's linked on my YouTube. I think you have to navigate to my Twitch to find that. Apologies on that. I probably should do something about that. Laziness is a hell of a drug, though. But yeah, my Twitter though. Actually, there's a link to it on my Twitter now. Think about it. Just places to follow me and keep in contact. If you maybe you got an idea and you're not a content creator, or you don't plan to be a content creator, and you're like, man, I got this fucking idea, and bro, it sounds like you might be able to articulate what I'm after. If you want to like hit me up with ideas and shit, I'm all for it. Hell, if you want to provide feedback, I had a couple guys provide feedback through my VODs, commenting on my VODs rather. I'm down to take it. I just hit me with it. Shit like that. But yeah, regardless of that though, I'm running on empty right now. I just needed to go and chill and relax. I promise I'll be back streaming soon. We got to get through fucking we got to talk about Genshin. I guess some shit really went down the other night. Good positive shit went down the other night. Also got to talk. We got to get through the summer story though. We got to get through Zenless, my beloved. Apparently the new stuff's really fucking good and fun to go through. So, a lot of live service gamey stuff going on. Huh? We got Ashes. I'm a fucking degenerate gotcha player. We went from JRPGs. Man, how the mighty fall, huh? One of these days we gotta go back through. I'm gonna. I've been looking at Tales of a lot lately, and I'm kind of regretting not finishing going through those games. Gotta get back into the JRPG swing here over too long. Probably try to get Dragon's Dogma 2 done before Alpha 2 drops too, maybe. If those are, if any of that's something you're interested in, come along for the ride. Otherwise, thank you for hanging out, chilling, stopping by, whatever it ends up being. I will hopefully see you guys over the next couple days here on Twitch. And thank you guys for hanging out. I'm a Dip. Please, everybody, have a great night, a great week, a great how